Chapter 1374. But these people. Each and every one of them was like an expert. Even if they wanted to talk nonsense, they would not be able to beat them. They were even more knowledgeable than a supreme martial artist like him. What was the meaning of wanting to cry but having no tears? This was probably it. This kind of feeling is really terrible. I don't have any experience at all. Looking at the ticket in his hand, chanting hatred really wanted to crush it. A piece of paper like this actually took away a top-notch weapon. Although it wasn't his strongest, it was still in the top 3. Damn it. Dean, let's go eat. I have no appetite. There seems to be someone selling hot dogs over there. Do you want to go and have a taste, Dean? I'm not going. Evergreen was infuriated. You still have to eat, although I'm also very annoyed now, Lonesome Hatred advised softly. Chang-Ching nodded. A moment later. What is this? It's so fragrant. The more I chew, the more fragrant it becomes. Boss, another one. There's even barbecue here. This fragrance is something I have never seen before. That sizzling sound seems to be calling out to your taste buds, boss. How much are you selling these skewers? What is this? Fried dumplings. It looks really good. Boss, give me one. Walking into this street of snacks, everyone seemed to have forgotten their proper business and began to replenish their energy. Chi Shu-in and the other two were also eating. I feel that this is the taste of my hometown. It's so fragrant. The originally gloomy crowd had completely dissipated in the face of these delicacies. It seemed that delicacies and snacks could really make people happy. When night fell, everyone sat at the stall and drank cold starched jelly. I didn't expect that apart from being arrogant, this empire has so many good things to eat. Yeah, I've never eaten these things before. It's too delicious. I'll settle down here in the future. As soon as he said this, everyone glared at him, as if they didn't want to stay here anymore. Under such circumstances, he was a little envious of the local residents who could enjoy such food every day. It's about time, let's go in. After enjoying the delicacies, it was about time for them to get to work. When the Voidless Empire fell into the enemy's hands, they could arrange for all these bosses to go back. This was a pretty good idea. Everyone drank the bowl of cold powder in one gulp and felt like they had brought out the spirit of drinking. Then, swish swish swish. The group of people actually smashed the bowl. The boss was dumbfounded. Were they a bunch of lunatics? He was dressed so well. Was there something wrong with his brain? Why did he take out his anger on a bowl? Stop right there. Pay up. The boss looked very fierce. No matter who you are, smashing things is wrong. In the Voidless Empire, there was actually a different phenomenon. Some people with power would usually avoid conflicts with others. It was still fine if he was in the right, but if he were to bully others, then 15 days of deluxe sleeper, free travel, 3 meals included, hot water bath. And this was just the starting price. If he encountered a bad situation, then there was really nothing to say. It was guaranteed for a whole year, or even a few years. Therefore, it could be said that this boss was in the right, and he wasn't afraid at all. After all, the entire Voidless Empire was his backing. Even if the backing of these people was very strong, the Voidless Empire wouldn't be afraid. This was also why everyone loved this city. Fair, just, and open. What are you shouting for? Here's a gold coin. One of them directly took out a gold coin and dropped it on the table. It clanked and even spun, and the ear-piercing sound was very mocking. The boss originally didn't want to fuss about it. Forget about paying up, a gold coin can buy a lot of bowls. However, the other party's attitude was too vile, to the point that even the stall at the side couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing that the group of people were about to leave, the boss directly stopped the last person. you're not allowed to leave. Do you have a problem? The man swung his hand and directly threw the boss onto the ground. The entire place was silent. In the entire voidless empire, it had been a long time since someone was so reckless. To even beat someone up on the street. 1 year start, 3 years cap. If the other party was injured, the punishment would start from 3 years, 10 years cap. If the other party was crippled, the punishment would start from 10 years, 10 years cap. Looking at the current situation, if the boss were to go and report the case, this person would have to be at least a year. Beat someone up. Beat someone up. The boss, who was sitting on the ground, suddenly shouted out, attracting even more people's attention. The yellow armored warrior who was patrolling at the side turned his head and looked over, then slowly walked over. Everyone opened up a path for the yellow armored warrior. They loved to see the scene of a bully being punished. Chang Hen and Chang Qing's expressions were a bit displeased. Even at this time, there are still more problems. To even start beating someone up, isn't he still asking me to clean up his mess? Chang Qing, these are your people, hurry up and deal with them, don't waste time. Chang Hen instructed. Time waits for no one. Chang Qing nodded his head, then glared at the man who just beat someone up. The latter slightly lowered his head. He had forgotten what he was doing, and it was because he was at another place. If it was at another place, the other party would have to kneel down and beg him. However, this was Voidless Empire, a place with laws. 5 yellow armored warriors stood at the side of the boss, and one of them took a step forward. With a single look, one could tell that he was the squad leader. What's the matter? They smashed my bowl, and even beat me up. The boss pointed at the group of people and said with a wrong tone. The yellow armored warrior looked towards Chang Qing's side and asked lightly, is it like this? Chang Qing felt that he had truly been wrong today. He had truly been wrong to the point that he wanted to die. Ever since he was young, he had never felt so wrong before. It's a misunderstanding, we were shocked by Voidless Empire's grandeur, we have truly broadened our horizons. After drinking, we got a bit dizzy and did some extreme things, we are truly sorry. Chang Qing's tone was still very low-key, at least it made the boss feel that he was very sincere in his apology. Dizzy from drinking starched jelly. The way the yellow armored warrior spoke was still a bit emotionless, after all, he was not a human. However, this sentence of the yellow armored warrior caused the surrounding people to burst into laughter. Dizzy from drinking starched jelly, you guys are truly too awesome. Hearing this kind of laughter, everyone wished that they could directly kill these people and make these people shut up. However, I can't do that, I feel so wronged. Chang Qing squeezed out a smile, then walked to the front of the boss and squatted down. I am truly sorry, my subordinates are a bit incompetent and made you feel wronged. Can these people? The boss was also a man with dignity. He looked at the man who just spoke and said, apologize to me, and I will let this matter go. If not, I will definitely pursue this matter to the end. Did you hear that? Apologize. Chang Qing said gravely. The man took a look at Chang Qing, seemingly saying, Dean, this is too, hurry up. Chang Qing said coldly. The man was a bit scared, and while looking at the boss, he shouted out honestly, I apologize for my actions just now. Chapter 1375. The boss was relieved after hearing that. The surrounding people immediately applauded. Of course, it was for the yellow armored warrior. Hearing such a warm applause, evergreen and everlasting hatred pretended to be calm, but they had completely lost all face. Luckily, no one here knows the identity of me and the others. If they knew and this kind of gossip was spread out, wouldn't I lose my face? What are you waiting for? Let's go. Evergreen coldly snorted. When encountering such a thing, he could swallow it down. He only wished to save the children and bring them away. Then, he could properly plan how to settle this debt. Qi Shuwen and the others stood at the side and did not say anything. I feel that there seems to be some other purpose. After leaving the snack street, Everlasting Hatred whispered, Evergreen, did you see through the strength of those patrolling guards just now? No, but it gives off a very sharp feeling, Chongqing said in a low voice. There's also a feeling of not being human. That's right. This voidless empire is a little strange. We have to be careful. The two of them had grave expressions on their faces, and of course, Zhou Ye's expression was the same as well. As for the others, they appeared to be very relaxed. Isn't it just an empire, so what if he was the leader of the North? In front of the Broken Meridian Sect and Deity Academy, he was just an ant-like existence. There was no way for him to win. Just now, he had retreated because he needed a better chance to rescue them. Although it couldn't be said to be elusive, it was still above board. Following the crowd, they slowly entered the execution grounds. After entering, Evergreen heard a faint sound in his ears. The yin qi in the entire execution ground was very thick, but it was blocked by an aura field, preventing these souls from leaving. This method was truly devoid of conscience. For ordinary people, they wouldn't be able to sense it, but for the powerful supreme martial artists, they would be able to sense it very clearly. If they used a special technique, they would be able to see countless souls floating in the sky above the execution ground. This Wushu Empire's emperor is truly vicious. One of them couldn't help but say. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was utterly devoid of conscience. Long Outyen did not express his opinion. One could not just look at the present. What these souls had done before they died was the most important thing. It was not without reason that they received such a punishment. According to the numbers provided on the tickets, everyone sat down one by one, as if they were listening to a play. An execution ground was actually made into such a unique scene. Look at the surrounding crowd, they are all holding. What the hell? Drinking water will make you burp. Also, what was inside the barrel? It looked quite delicious. Looking at my hands again, there isn't anything at all. What are they holding in their hands? Chongqing asked in a low voice. Dean, I'll go ask. Long Outyen smiled and said, Dean, these are called cola and popcorn. You know about these things? Lonesome Hatred asked. There was one at the snack street just now. Lonesome Hatred said to his subordinates, go buy some and try it. Yes. 4 to 5 people stood up and went to buy snacks. Zhou Yi felt that this was just like watching a movie. You're here to save people. Can't you put the food aside first? It's better to be serious about this kind of thing. After a while, everyone had a cup of cola in their hands, and it was even iced up. Paired with popcorn, it was simply a masterpiece. Burp. Chongqing couldn't help but let out a burp. Looking at the thing that was called cola in his hand, after drinking this thing. I feel so good. My entire throat feels as if it is being choked, and that kind of refreshing feeling that comes from my heart makes me unable to stop even if I want to. This was 10,000 times better than the tea he used to drink. Damn it, I simply can't stop. This feeling, it's as if I've returned to the past. Long Outyen let out a burp and couldn't help but mutter. This is the taste of home. It has been almost 13 years since I came here, and today, I have simply tasted the taste of home. Back then, I still wanted to come here to settle down. If only I had persisted a bit more back then. I really don't know what to say about this. That's why, every choice has a consequence. Life is spent in the midst of continuously making choices. Qi Shuwen couldn't help but think back to back then, watching a movie and drinking cola. I don't need to think like this. Over there, I was suppressed, and only over here can I display my abilities. The execution ground was gradually filled up, and there were at least 200,000 people seated there. There were shiny artifacts placed around the execution ground that emitted white rays of light in the dark night, lighting up the execution ground. To the people in Wushu Empire, this kind of method was a bit strange. After all, in the past, the execution ground was always carried out during the day, but today, the execution ground was carried out during the night. Chongqing and Long Hatred also learned that this kind of artifact could be used in such a way. In the future, when the Academy holds a martial arts competition, it would also be a good choice to carry out the competition at night. Suddenly, all of the artifact lights were gathered at the entrance of the execution ground. Everyone present was cheering. What kind of feeling was having 200,000 people cheering? It was definitely able to make one's blood boil. However, what the two big shots couldn't understand was, this is the execution ground. Why are these people so crazy? The purpose of the execution ground was originally to shock and awe, and after a few shocks and awe, the execution ground seemed to have turned into a strange festival. Everyone seemed to be very willing to see the end of the bad guys, and then tell their own families that one should cherish one's life. Swoosh! The iron gate at the entrance was opened. Chongqing and Long Hatred put down the popcorn in their hands, feeling that the children should have appeared. Those foolish children, I should have personally gone to the execution ground earlier, they might not have done such a foolish thing. The children did not come out, but the yellow armored warriors that came out, the sound of the armor rubbing against each other could be heard, and the atmosphere was filled with killing intent. The entire place immediately quietened down, and this was much more useful than anything else. Long Hatred and the others could feel that everyone was carrying respect, and reverence, and even fear. The yellow armored warriors stood in a row along the side of the execution ground. Soon after, the species that made Chongqing and Long Hatred fearful appeared. A skeleton could be seen, wearing a golden armor and walking out. That cold and arrogant expression made everyone who was sitting at the entrance hold their breaths. Everyone knew that there were also people from different races within the royal family's personnel. This skeleton. Chongqing looked towards Death Assassin in shock. Long Hatred doesn't know either. The feeling that this skeleton is giving me is very similar. Very similar. However, the only difference is that this skeleton seems to be the little brother. That skeleton from before is the big brother. Long Outyen and Zhou Yi, who were sitting at the side, also had a face full of astonishment. Isn't this Teacher Skeleton? Back then, he suddenly disappeared. Why did he appear here? Chapter 1376. Long Outyen had a number of question marks in his heart, but he was certain in his heart that, this is Teacher Skeleton. After all, we have been together for so many years, I am able to sense it. Zhou Ye's heart was also filled with doubt. I feel that something is amiss. What's wrong? Do you know each other? Qi Shuwen noticed that there was something off about the two of them and asked curiously. We were together in the past. Long Outyen was rather honest. Master Zhou sighed in his heart. Long Outyen had really changed. He was so crafty in the past. This was a family that had changed a man. Together. Qi Shuwen was even more confused. Why were you together with an undead? This is a long story. Long Outyen didn't want to say too much. Seeing that Long Outyen didn't want to say too much, Qi Shuwen felt a bit displeased in his heart, but he didn't say anything. Perpetual Hatred and Evergreen heard it as well, but they both knew that Death Assassin stood at the center of the execution ground and swept his gaze across the entire execution ground. Clang. Death Assassin could be seen pulling out the long sword from his waist and pointing it towards the sky, and all of the yellow armored warriors in the surroundings also pulled out their swords. The atmosphere was ignited. It was a simple action, but it made the 200,000 people in the audience blush. They could no longer suppress the excitement in their hearts and burst into cheers. This was the strength of Voidless Empire. Just a single action was enough to make one go crazy. Evergreen and everlasting hatred were also dumbfounded. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? Was it really that crazy? It was nothing to the strong, but ordinary people could easily be affected by the atmosphere. Death Assassin was very satisfied with this scene. It can be said that I have achieved the desired effect. Death Assassin slowly walked to the side. However, at this time, a person wearing a black gown walked out, and in his hand was a huge sickle. This kind of iconic weapon made Joey think of a skeleton that likes to fish. He even likes to smoke cigars, and when he smokes, his entire body would emit smoke. Death Mage slowly walked to the center of the execution ground, then took off the black hood and revealed a skull, the appearance of two outsiders in a row. Everyone felt that it was the Emperor's will. Suddenly, Death Mage raised the scythe in his hand, and in front of everyone's astonished gazes, he dropped the scythe onto the ground. Bang! A dull sound rang out. The scene in front of them changed in an instant, and the temperature suddenly increased, and the scene in front of them was actually in the depths of lava. To be more precise, there was lava flowing at the side of the execution ground, and the surroundings were all red-colored rock walls that were emitting a high temperature. Hurry up and drink some iced cola to calm your nerves. This. Chongqing had a face full of disbelief. It wasn't just Chongqing, even the people he brought were dumbfounded. Doubt was emitting out from Changhen's eyes. This doesn't seem to be an illusion. This temperature is real, and the molten lava below seems to be real as well. This alien race brought us to another place in an instant. Chongqing said in a low voice. How was this possible? Teleporting with more than 200,000 people was something even he couldn't do. Indeed, back then, even Yi was unable to bring so many people along to teleport. From this, it could be seen that this was actually still a fake illusion, and the illusion was only able to deceive Chongqing and Chonghen. The temperature is controlled using magic, giving people a feeling that they are in the real world. As for those faces, in actuality, they are all water. After adding a bit of illusory magic on them, they will turn into magma, giving people the feeling that magma is flowing. This lord is quite quick-witted. He knows how to use his brain now. After Death Mage finished dealing with the effects of the arena, he slowly stood at the side, and Death Assassin obediently stood behind Death Mage. After all, it was a product that was summoned by Death Mage. However, even if it was a product that was summoned by Death Mage, it was still a very formidable existence. Right now, at the place where the door and the execution ground was, there was a long wooden board placed, and below the board was the molten lava. I'm really afraid that the wooden board would break apart, and if a person were to fall into the molten lava, they would most likely turn into fire and disappear. At this moment, a beautiful figure slowly walked out. The figure was wearing black skin-tight clothes, and her long beautiful hair was tied into a ponytail, looking very capable and experienced. Her footsteps were very straightforward, and she walked out with a sense of confidence. However, when Long Outyen saw this beautiful figure, he was completely stupefied. If I didn't see wrongly, could this be Qing Yutong? Qing Ye's little sister. Qing Yutong. And she's even a big celebrity. The scenes from back then immediately surged into Long Outyen's mind. That day, I was sitting inside Qing family, waiting for Qing Ye to come back. At that time, Qing Ye's dad promised me, and Qing Ye's grandfather also promised me that they would marry Qing Ye to me, and that Qing Ye was going to become my fiancé soon. However, on that day, Qing Ye actually brought another man into the house. Even now, I can still remember that man's appearance. Very handsome, even more handsome than me, even more pretentious than me. Imagine, the woman that I like, bringing another man back home, who would be able to understand that kind of feeling? No one would be able to understand that kind of feeling. Therefore, I wanted to let that man know how powerful I am. However, in the end, I discovered that it was completely useless, and I was instead made a fool out of. And that Qing Yutong, back then, I still wanted to hug two beauties into my arms. However, that day was the day of my darkness. Too many things happened. However, it was also on that day that I met Meng Meng. This must be the will of the heavens. It was also on that day that I was fancied by Teacher Skeleton. No, it's watching over me. Suddenly, Long Outyen went into a daze. Teacher Skeleton is very likely to be that man's underling, and was asked to watch over me. If not, why would I immediately be watched over right after I had a conflict with him? The more I think about it, the more I feel that it is possible. This woman is so beautiful. That's right. It has been a long time since I have seen a woman with such an aura. I didn't expect that there would be such a character in Wushu Empire. Chang Qing's underlings beside him muttered to each other and sighed with emotion in their hearts. This woman is too beautiful, her beauty is enough to bring calamity to a country. Even Chang Hen revealed a surprised expression. Qin Yutong's performance was very good. After all, back then, it was very obvious that this kind of scene was very common. Thus, she appeared to be very calm. Slowly walking to the center, Qin Yutong stood with her hands behind her back, looked at the crowd, then said gravely, "Just a few days ago, 4 people who were lying in ambush were discovered. They were trying to disrupt Wushu Empire's order. This is a premeditated action. After going through torture, there was still no result, and thus, the execution was carried out here today. Let everyone know that Wushu Empire is not to be trifled with." Qin Yutong's words gradually carried killing intent, and her pair of beautiful eyes became especially cold. As expected of a movie empress. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" Shouts immediately came from the crowd. Chang Hen and Chang Qing's expressions didn't look good, because they heard that the children were being abused. These vicious people actually didn't even let the children off. They are simply shameless. Chapter 1377. However, these children were all good. Under the interrogation, they did not confess. The other party had no choice but to use this method to understand them. He really had to give these children a thumbs up. If they knew that this was just a show that was targeted at them, I wonder what they would think. Would they not know whether to laugh or cry, or would they become angry out of humiliation? That might not be the case. "This woman looks very familiar," Qi Shuwen said in a low voice. "I only know that she looks familiar, but I don't know where I have seen her before." Lord Zhou, who was at the side, also muttered, "He does look familiar, but I can't recall where. I feel like I've seen him before." Long Outyen sighed. How could they not know each other? Back in the day, she was a household name. How could they have seen her on TV or seen her in the movies? However, she was much more beautiful now, and her temperament had also changed, so she only gave people a familiar feeling. However, Long Outyen had an evil thought in the past, so he was still able to deduce that she was Qin Yutong. However, Long Outyen didn't tell anyone that she was Qin Yutong. Of course, he was also curious as to why Qin Yutong was here. Could it be that she had taken refuge with that man? As expected. That man isn't a good person either. His thoughts are exactly the same as mine, and he is thinking about this pair of sisters. Furthermore, he even succeeded. He is simply shameless. Back then, I wanted to tell Qinya that that man is the same as me, greedy and insatiable. Right now, Qinya must be regretting to the point that her intestines are turning green. Later on, when I see him, I have to properly reminisce about the past. Back then, not choosing me was the right choice, but choosing that man was also the wrong choice. Long Outyen had no intention of fighting at all. He just wanted to catch up with his old friend. Inside the Iron Gate, Dong Huangli, who was the leader of the group, was already prepared. The 4 children were properly dressed up by Qin Yutong. The white prison uniform that Dong Li was wearing was filled with bloodstains, and there were also bloodstains on Dong Li's face. Their hair was also in a mess. To the children who loved to look beautiful, this was simply too hard to bear. Little Aunt is simply too bad. Whenever she gets a chance, she would prank me. How can there be such an elder, and my mother actually tacitly agreed to it. This family is simply too crazy. Lu, do you think our dean will just watch us die? Yi Yan asked curiously. Yi Lu didn't look like a goddess at all right now. She was about to cry because of her auntie. I don't know, Yi Lu said in a low voice. It was the same for Dong Li as well. Perhaps, this is father's intention, right? If sect head doesn't come and save us, it would also be good for us to give up. Dong Li's words received the affirmation from her little brother and little sister. Father's scheming is truly daring. God Yi sighed heavily. Sis, I think our sect master treats us well. He gives you everything you want, no matter how difficult it is. Yi Yan chuckled, then looked at God Yi and said, Brother, being nice to someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're being nice. Maybe it's because of benefits. If my sister didn't have this ability, would the sect master still be so nice? To put it bluntly, it's all because of our strength. In the future, we can bring glory to the sect or the institute. Yi Yan's words sounded very uncomfortable, but from a certain angle, that was indeed the case. Driven by benefits, I can indeed do many things. I can agree to any of your requests. Don't be so serious. I'm just saying. Maybe they will come to save us. Dad won't make things difficult for them. Yi Yan smiled again. Yi Lu punched her brother grumpily. Brother, how far have you and sister-in-law progressed? God Yi grabbed onto the opportunity and teased. Yi Yan's eyes flickered as he said proudly, Of course, what should have happened has happened. However, in my heart. It was just a kiss on the lips, and then, there's no then. Every time I want to kiss her, I would feel nervous, and then I wouldn't dare to. Damn it, I've really let down my title of scumbag Yi. Even when I kiss her on the lips, I've become so timid, it's simply not like me anymore. So annoying. Sometimes, when I hold hands, I feel like I'm preparing for a battle. Oh. Everything happened. Dong Li laughed. Of course, who do you think I am? Isn't it just a matter of minutes? Seems like scumbag Yi still cared a lot about his face. The corner of God Ye's mouth slightly raised as he said, Why did I hear from Xian, that you sleep in the side room every night? Damn it, how did I forget about this? Recently, Chuyu and Lu Xian have been quite close. What else can those two women talk about? This Chuyu is really something. You actually want to tell everyone about the matter of me sleeping in the side room, didn't you ask for it yourself? This old woman, I have to think of a way to get her. That day, it was a bit inconvenient, so I slept in the side room. Yi Yan said while stammering. Anyone with a discerning eye would be able to tell that he was lying. Dong Li laughed loudly, then pressed onto Yi Yan's shoulder and said, Your great aunt is here. Ha ha ha. God Yi and Yi Lu laughed loudly. It was very rare for these two blocks of ice to laugh like this. Only when these brothers and sisters were together would something like this happen. Yi Yan was incomparably gloomy as he said solemnly, Let me tell you guys, 10 months later, my son will be born. Alright, stop bragging, let's deal with Chuyu first. Dong Li laughed softly as she looked towards the side of the stage. Let's go. It's our turn to go on stage, put on the iron chains. Looking at the iron chains that were untied, the children helplessly cuffed themselves up. It's time for me to show off my acting skills. Dong Li took the lead and said seriously, Prepare your expressions. Let's go. When it's time to laugh, laugh, and when it's time to be serious, this is the spirit of a team. Outside of the stage, Qing Yutong shouted out, "Bring out the prisoners." Dong Guangli took a step forward, and her face immediately became upright and plain-spoken, just like an angel of justice. Yi Yan, who was behind her, seemed to have become an authentic criminal, carrying an incomparably wronged expression on his face. Fortunately, Dong Guangli didn't see her brother's expression. If not, she would have smacked Yi Yan's head. "What kind of expression is that?" Yi Yan retorted with a straight face. "I am fully expressing my current mood. Shouldn't I be wronged? I have already been beaten to this state." God Yi and Yi Lu, who were behind Yi Yan, were putting on a poker face. In any case, no matter what, they would always have the same expression, and it was also the expression that was closest to Yi Hua's. As the four people walked out of the iron prison, the entire stage became silent. Right now, Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green were incomparably excited. They finally appeared. Although their faces were very dirty, they were still able to recognize them with a single look. After all, they had lived here for 12 years, even if they were to turn into air, they would still be able to endure it. "It's the children, when are you going to make your move?" Long Hatred said coldly. Since he had already confirmed it, he could make his move at any time. He wanted to finish the Coke in his hand in one gulp. Chapter 1378. Chang Qing tightly wrinkled his brows, then said, "Wait a moment, find a good opportunity to make a move." "All right. These bastards. To actually beat up some children like this, they are simply inhumane." Chang Hen clenched his fist, feeling extremely indignant in his heart. "Even if I caught a spy, I wouldn't beat them up like this. Under normal circumstances, would just directly kill them and give them a quick death." Qing Yutong looked at the children and almost couldn't hold back her laughter. Dong Guangli clearly felt it. What does laughter mean? Why is there such an expression? Looking at Yi Yan's expression, Qing Yutong's jaw almost dropped to the ground. Can this child be a bit more serious? Look at how wronged you are, as if I didn't give you any food to eat. Dong Guangli really wanted to turn around and take a look to see what exactly happened. "All of you, stand in a row," Qing Yutong said coldly, then glared at Yi Yan, indicating that you are serious and don't cause trouble. Yi Yan felt even more wronged. This is the essence of acting, all right. And, you are a movie queen, and you don't even understand this. I am very disappointed, only Chuyu can understand me. However, Chuyu, who was on the viewing platform, also had a helpless look on her face. Sometimes, Brother Yen is just so indecent, making me not know whether to laugh or cry. Chuyu, Brother Yen is so interesting. Lu Xian, who was sitting at the side, laughed lightly. Chuyu rolled her eyes. What a joke, I'm really impressed. It's good that Brother Yen can make you happy. Look at the one at home, he definitely won't be like this, be content with what you have. Lu Xian was also helpless. God Yi often has a poker face, he looks just like my father, exactly the same. Sometimes, I really can't take it, but now that I have boarded the pirate ship, I can't get back down anymore. Chuyu knew in her heart that Yi Yan and God Ye's personalities were like heaven and earth. Yi Yan's personality was still slightly better, God Ye's personality was not something that ordinary women could handle. Patting on the back of Lu Xian's hand, Chuyu smiled and said, "All right, God Ye treats you very well, you should be content." He, if he doesn't treat me well, see if I don't tell on him." Lu Xian pouted her small mouth, and a blissful smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Humans, all have flaws, and there is no perfect existence. Their personalities need to complement each other, and only then will they be able to stay together for a long time. Chuyu looked at Yi Yan, who was on the stage, and revealed out a smile. So beautiful. If Yi was still alive, they would simply look like twins. What a pity. Evergreen was currently in a very bad mood. I have watched Yi Yan grow up since he was young, and when have I ever seen such an expression on Yi Yan's face? Just look at that aggrieved look on Yi Yan's face. Evergreen must have definitely been abused inhumanely. Upon thinking about Yi Yan's stern face, Evergreen snorted and swore that he would definitely teach Wushu Empire a lesson and make those people pay the price. He would also let them know that his deity institution wasn't one to be trifled with. On the stage, Dong Huangli secretly took a glance at her younger brother, and the corner of her mouth slightly twitched. How did you learn to have such an expression? Can you be more serious? Dong Huangli warned. At a time like this, if you still don't get serious, if something were to happen, the sect master and dean's lives would definitely be gone. Yi Yan said in a low voice, I'm very serious. You won't understand. Everyone, Qin Yutong had no other choice and could only continue to shout out coldly, don't look at how young they are, in actuality, they have committed many evils. If not for my emperor's wisdom, I'm afraid that Wushu Empire would have already fallen into enemy hands today. Qin Yutong's ability to attract hatred is truly not bad. In an instant, she had raised everyone's hatred towards Yi Yan. After all, the reason why Wushu Empire was able to have such a life right now was all because of the imperial family. If the imperial family were to fall, this kind of life would be gone forever, and this was something that no one was willing to see. Thus, Qin Yutong's actions could be said to have caused public indignation. Kill them. Directly throw them into the magma. Dismember their bodies. To actually dare to cause trouble in Wushu Empire, they are simply not putting our emperor in their eyes. Qin Yutong was very satisfied. She spread out her hands, and the entire place immediately quietened down. The Empress will definitely fulfill your request. Now, let's invite the Empress to enforce the law. Qin Yutong shouted out. Everyone could be seen gathering on the high platform at the center of the stage. Everyone present knew that those who were able to stand on the high platform were all existences that were second to none in Wushu Empire. On the high platform, two illusory circles condensed, and two beautiful figures slowly appeared in everyone's eyes. Both of them were dressed in phoenix robes, and the golden patterns on the robes were clearly the phoenixes of the imperial family. Both of them were dressed in phoenix robes, and their dignified headgear gave off a very strong pressure. Qin Yutong suddenly discovered one thing. Dong Huangli said in a low voice, Aunt, it seems like you have been scammed by Mom. Yes, he must have been tricked. Yi Yan added. Qin Yutong was depressed. Big sister is simply acting shamelessly. You guys didn't say that we are going to play like this. If I had known that it would be like this, I would have stood on the high platform and acted cool as well. I am truly envious of you. This time doesn't count. Let's do it again. Let's switch roles. Qi Shuwen saw Dong Huang Baiji. This nightmarish woman would frequently appear in my mind. Back then, she also looked like this, dressed in gorgeous clothing and appeared in front of everyone's eyes, while I sat below the stage and looked up at that proud figure. I didn't expect that so many years have passed. She is still standing on the high platform, while I am still sitting below the stage and looking up at her. This phenomenon has not changed at all. No. Back then, I didn't have the strength. That's why I lowered my body. The present is different from the past. Qi Shuwen, am no longer someone who sits below, I am someone who is able to stand on the high platform. After today, everyone will know of my great name, Qi Shuwen. Not that son-in-law, but the big figure who brought down Voidless Realm. All of you will have to look up at the back of me, Qi Shuwen, and worship me. Jealousy. Long Outyin finally saw Qinya. Right now, his heart was in a mess. How should I put it? I used to like Qinya in the past. Although there wasn't a happy ending, and I can't be considered as an ex-girlfriend, seeing how Qingye has become, I feel at ease. Qingye should be living a pretty good life. To be able to become this empire's empress, after this is over, I should go and meet this fellow from my hometown and ask if that man treats you well or not. If he doesn't treat you well, Long Out Yin will go and teach that man a lesson for you. Right now, Jiu Yi had a lingering fear in his heart. As expected of the Empress of Voidless Realm. Discomfort immediately emerged in Jiu Yi's gaze. Back then, I even attacked Voidless Realm and wanted to bring down the Empress, but now, the Empress has appeared again. Bring down the Empress. Look at this ostentatious display, it is simply even more powerful than back then. How am I supposed to bring down the Empress? Am I supposed to use my life to bring down the Empress? Meanwhile, Qi Shuwen was about to make his move. Crazy, this is definitely crazy, Shuwen, are you going to make your move? Jiu Yi said gravely. Although you have helped me a lot, I still have to make my move. Chapter 1379. However, this was a situation where one was courting death, one cannot be impulsive, impulsive actions required a painful price to pay, and it was not something that an ordinary person could bear. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji who were on the main stage stared at the audience. It has been many years since I played like this, I really miss it a bit. However, this time, there was still the children's performance. It could be counted as a mother and children performing together, it was something worth remembering. We pay our respects to the Empress. A solemn shout suddenly rang out from the audience. The shout was extremely loud and clear, and it was filled with respect. My people, rise. Qingye slowly raised her hand, appearing very domineering. This made Long Outyin very emotional. In the past, Qingye was just a female general carrier, and her temperament was fierce. However, the current Qingye had completely changed. Not only was her temperament fierce, it was also filled with the aura of an iron-blooded empress. However, Qi Shuwen was very unhappy. In the past, I was suppressed by the Empress, and today, I am being suppressed by another woman. Just wait a bit more, I will let you all know what a real person is. Donghuang Baiji said slowly, it is a pity that I have to punish 4 ignorant youngsters tonight. Although Donghuang Baiji said that, wasn't Donghuang Baiji also saying that you children are too immature and only care about your father? In the future, you should care more about your mother. The children seemed to be able to sense the meaning behind Donghuang Baiji's words and expressed that they were helpless. Although I am acting, my mother is also using this act to punish me. When Qi Shuwen heard Donghuang Baiji's words, he became very unhappy. This woman always speaks with an arrogant tone, as if she is the most powerful person in the world. She was like this back then, and she is still like this now. A woman should act like a woman, and it would be fine as long as she takes care of her husband and children. It could be seen that Qi Shuwen's mental state was very bad, to the point where he even had a kind of morbid feeling. Mental illness is also a kind of illness, and one needs to take medicine. Do you all have anything else to refute? Qingye asked towards the children, her tone was cold and filled with lecturing. I would rather die than submit. Yi Yan suddenly shouted out with a strong determination, expressing that Yi Yan, will definitely not turn back. Qin Yutong and Dong Huangli were immediately speechless. Just a moment ago, you still had that innocent expression on your face, and in the blink of an eye, you became a justice warrior. Qingye really wanted to smack her own sons, but you are the most fart. However, what Yi Yan wanted to express was that, as a drama queen level character, he was especially particular about his psychological activities. The grievance he felt just now immediately exploded, just like an honest person who was being bullied. The Buddha in his heart was suppressed, releasing a demon. That's what Yi Yan, want to express. Look at God Yi and Yi Lu. Their expressions don't change at all. What 2 unqualified actors. I'll never give a single cent to these group members. How unprofessional. Look at little Aunt, that gaze of hers is filled with astonishment. She is definitely impressed by my, Yi Yan's, acting skills. Little Aunt, do you have any interest in bringing your nephew to debut? In the future, she would definitely become an A-list superstar. Chuyu, that old woman, is really lucky to have a superstar as her husband. TSK TSK TSK. In the past, she must have broken countless wooden fish to be able to meet a man like me, Yi Yan. Evergreen looked at Yi Yan, his heart filled with admiration. As expected of the student he brought up. Even in this kind of situation, he still had the courage to resist evil. Yi Yan. Don't worry, the dean will risk his life to save you today. Qingye laughed lightly. This child, he even added more scenes for me. Since you all would rather die than submit, then I will fulfill your wish. Begin the execution. Qingye shouted out. This family game was especially exciting. With so many extras arranged, the scale of the game was also getting bigger and bigger. Four fat butchers could be seen walking out from the iron door at the side. The butchers were holding onto large blades that were shining with silver light. There was no doubt that the sharp blades would definitely be able to chop off the heads of the butchers in an orderly manner. The speed of the blades was so fast that you would be able to see your own body falling down. When the children saw this, they felt that, this seems to be an extra scene, right? There wasn't such a scene in the past, it's definitely the mother, to actually trick even the children. How can there be such a mother, isn't she just siding with the father? To actually take revenge like this. The four fat butchers could be seen walking to the back of the children. Yi Yan turned his head and took a look at little Aunt. What kind of situation is this? Is this the revenge from a great mother? Qing Yutong expressed that she did not know anything at all. You all can do whatever you want, this scene still has to continue. The four fat butchers took down the wine flask on their waists, raised their heads and drank to boost their courage, then sprayed the wine onto the large blades. Yi Yan could even feel that the wine mist had drifted onto his head, and he hurriedly said, "Don't spray it, disinfecting it like this won't work." The butchers immediately became speechless. Disinfecting? Disinfecting it? It looks so disgusting. Yi Yan said again. Shut up. Qing Yutong shouted out helplessly. In the beginning, you were feeling wronged, just a moment ago, you were upright and plain-spoken, and now, you are actually smiling mischievously. Do you still have any integrity as an actor? Yi Yan wanted to say, from just a moment ago, you would rather die than submit, to now, you are so relaxed. This is the mentality of facing death with equanimity, putting down all of the burdens and revealing your true self. To think that little Aunt, you are a movie queen, to not even understand this. Right now, Lu Xiener couldn't help but laugh. Brother Yen is really too funny, he actually added so many scenes for himself, he will definitely be taught a lesson by mom and dad. Chuyu had a helpless look on her face. I really don't know what to do with him. If he messes up, he will definitely have to take the blame. He will indeed have to take the blame. Right now, the scene was completely silent, and the aura of death instantly engulfed the entire place. The children had an expression of, even if I die, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Especially Yi Yan, he even wanted to chat with the butchers who were behind him. As Yi Yan's butcher, the shadow in his heart right now was very big. Don't do things like this, little honor, it hasn't been easy for me. It wasn't easy for me. I was chosen because of my body shape, and I want to show off a bit so that I can make my debut in the future. Little honor, you actually want to chat with me? Isn't the mentality of a person at this time very complicated? Perhaps, they don't want to die, and their desire to live has reached an unprecedented peak. This is the normal behavior. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji both wanted to start over and properly discuss with Yi Yan. Aren't you tearing down mom's stage? Be careful that Chuyu cheats on you. Enough. Execute. Qin Yutong was preparing to use a ruthless medicine. If this is still unable to force you all to show yourselves, then that would truly be too disappointing. Therefore, please do not disappoint us. The four fat butchers raised the big knives in their hands, and under the illumination of the lava, the bodies of the knives became bright red, as if they were being burned by fire. The knives rose and fell. The knives rose, but the knives did not fall. Chapter 1380. Because the fat butcher was unable to move anymore, as if there was some kind of power controlling him, facing such a situation, the children felt a kind of joy in their hearts. This joy was indescribable, as if they had verified something, and indeed, they still made their move. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji also hoped to see such a scene. If not, wouldn't all that have been done be for naught? However, the things that should be said, have to be said. Seems like there is still someone who dares to oppose. Why don't you stand out, and let everyone take a look at you, the hero? Donghuang Baiji said faintly. No matter how powerful the enemy is, when they come to Wushu Empire, they would still have to behave properly and not act rashly. If not, the consequences would be rather severe. Since you wish to see, then I shall grant you your wish. Eternal Hatred's voice finally rang out, and it was filled with incomparable conviction. Swish, 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 tens of figures directly floated above the execution ground, looking majestic and imposing, displaying the demeanor of a great family. However, in the eyes of the masses, this was no different from courting death. This was the first time in the history of Wushu Empire that a situation like this had happened. This was simply not putting Wushu Empire in their eyes at all. This kind of behavior was indeed infuriating. However, one had to admire their courage, or perhaps it was their ignorance. Who are the people on the other side? Report your names. Qingya shouted coldly. Chang Qing stroked his sleeves. You already know the answer, yet you are still asking. Shen Institution's Dean sure is eloquent. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. I didn't expect that these people would really appear and come to save the children. Hearing that it was Shen Institution's dean, the people on the scene went into an uproar. The big boss of the South actually appeared and directly went against Wushu Empire. This is truly shocking. As a mother, I am still very gratified. It was not a waste for me to leave the children in their hands for over 10 years. Chang Qing laughed lightly. Wushu Empire's empress is truly a heroine among women. Dean is too courteous. May I know what is the purpose of the dean's appearance? Chang Qing looked at the children below and said softly, Empress, these are my students. If they have offended you in any way, please forgive them. They are, after all, just children, and they have just left the academy, so they do not know the immensity of heaven and earth. If they have offended you in any way, my Shen Institution's dean will apologize to you. My Meridian Break sect master Eternal Hatred is the same. Donghuang Li and of God Yi are both my disciples, and God of Yi is my teacher. The actions of Chang Qing and Chang Hen caused Qingye and Donghuang Baiji to be very surprised. According to the script, they should have started fighting right away. Why are they being so low-key? As important figures of the South, they are apologizing right away. After I save the child, I will slowly settle the score with him. Furthermore, I still haven't figured out Wushu Empire's background yet. In order to save me, he put down his pride. This is truly moving. At this moment, Qingye saw a very familiar face in this group of people. Long Outyin. Was he Long Outyin? How is this possible? How is it possible for him to appear here? Didn't he go missing back then? Or could it be that this is just a person who looks very similar to me? Of course, if it wasn't for Long Outyen's existence, I wouldn't have gone to a bar to get drunk, and even indulged myself once. Although she had only indulged herself once, it was precisely because of this one time that she became entangled with Yi Hua. Originally, Qingye was still wondering whether or not this person was Long Outyin himself. However, when she saw the gaze that Long Outyin was looking at her with, she should be able to confirm that this person was indeed Long Outyin himself. At this moment, Long Outyin was also a little happy. After all, he could tell from Qingye's gaze that she still remembered him. How could he not remember? This was like jumping from one pit into another pit. Furthermore, this pit was not an ordinary pit, it was a heavenly pit. Isn't that person at the side Jiu Yi? Back then, Yihua even brought me to meet him. Why is he also in the group? Right now, Qingye was a little stupefied. Originally, it was just the children's problem, but right now, it seems to have escalated a bit. Right now, Yi Yan and Yi Lu secretly looked towards their mother, and discovered that their mother was a bit strange, and was looking at one of the people in the group with a strange gaze. The two couldn't help but imagine in their minds, could it be that she met her ex-boyfriend? If that's the case, then this matter is a bit scary. Qin Yutong also looked over, and upon taking a look, she got a fright. Although she had only met him once, but she also knew that the man who almost became her brother-in-law back then, Long Outyin. Why is this man in the group? It can't be that he still hasn't given up his evil intentions, right? Back then, he even said that he was going to take Big Sister and me into his pocket, but in the end, he disappeared. Without a doubt, it was definitely done by brother-in-law, the king of jealousy. Right now, Yi Hua and Wei Chang were currently looking at the situation in the group. However, Yi Hua was a bit unhappy. Wei Chang, who was at the side, knew why his honor was unhappy, but he didn't know how to explain. Why is he here? Yi Hua asked gravely. Your Honor, I don't know either. You don't know? Back then, didn't I tell you to arrange for people to watch over Long Outyin? Why did the guards become like this? Facing Wei Chang's explanation, Yi Hua was very dissatisfied. It is subordinates' negligence. What else could Wei Chang say? This is truly a headache. Looking at his honor's appearance, it seems like he is a bit jealous. However, this is also good, seeing that his honor is jealous, your wife will be happy in her heart. After all, this is a display of caring. Don't talk about being jealous, just thinking about the situation back then, Yi Hua felt very unhappy. Your Honor, should we do something? Wei Chang asked curiously. Yi Hua said gravely, no need, I want to see what they are going to do. Are they going to rekindle their old feelings? Your wife isn't going to that extent. I think she is a bit, Yi Hua was just saying those words out of anger. These few days, their relationship wasn't that stiff anymore, but right now, Yi Hua felt that something wasn't right when he suddenly thought about those unhappy things. Look at my wife's expression, no matter how I look at it, I just feel unhappy. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said again, look at Qingye's expression, she even forgot to do her proper business. That scene brought back memories. Wei Chang immediately became speechless, and decided not to interrupt anymore. Right now, his honor is extremely jealous. At this moment, Qingye adjusted her mentality and said, what were you two talking about just now? Qingye didn't ask that on purpose, the main thing was that she was indeed distracted just now. Chapter 1381. Although this wasn't intentional, they were still provoking the leaders of the South. Evergreen and Everhatred were still respectable people. Now that he had already made his name known, if he didn't show it, his name would go down in history. The Broken Meridian sect and deity institution couldn't afford to lose this face. Empress. Aren't you looking down on us too much by saying these words? Do you think that your Wushu Empire is the overlord of this land? Chang Hen appeared to be especially furious. Look at the blue veins that were throbbing violently on his forehead, they were as thick as a little finger, and the filaments in his eyes were also especially obvious. The Meridian Break sect master Chang Hen, who had gone berserk, Qingye also felt a bit embarrassed in her heart. Just now, I was really thinking about other things. Looking at the children's teacher who looked like he was going to fight with his life on the line, it was really touching. Should he just let it go? From the looks of it, Qingye is still as kind as before. On the other hand, Donghuang Baiji who is at the side isn't that kind. I feel that I have to add more fuel to the fire. Donghuang Baiji said calmly, to be honest, I really don't put you in my eyes. Attack. Chongqing thought that she was going to make a move on him, but in the end, he realized that she was going to make a move on the children's hands. How could he let her do as she wished? Everlasting hatred. Save them first. All right. Seeing that the negotiations had collapsed, the two sides immediately launched into a catfight. However, Qi Shuwen and the other two didn't go to rescue them, and instead chose, Empress. Qi Shuwen shouted in a deep voice. Long Outyen and Lord Jiu were stunned. Is there something wrong with you? To actually use this kind of tone to call Donghuang Baiji. This voidless realm's empress, however, the battle below had already started. Qin Yutong along with the two skeletons, 3 against a group, it was very straightforward. Who are you? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously while looking at Qi Shuwen. Even Qingye was a bit puzzled. This man seems to know Donghuang Baiji. On the viewing platform, Yihua's expression tensed up. Just now, there was a problem with Qingye, and right now, there is even a problem with Donghuang Baiji as well. These two women. Did they find a gigolo behind my back? No wonder he had been so cold to me these past few days. It turns out that he wanted to use the Cold War method to make me take the initiative to break up with him. As expected, they were all scum. I, the Supreme Overlord, have to properly teach these two scumbags a lesson. Your Honor, the current situation is still unclear. The situation is right in front of us. It's very clear. Wei Chong was very speechless. Seems like His Honor is really jealous, sigh. When His Honor gets jealous, he is also a famous person. You asked me who I am. Don't tell me you don't remember. Qi Shuwen asked again, his tone suddenly becoming sarcastic. This caused Yihua to be about to explode. Wei Chong. Listen to that. How dare you say there's no problem? I think there's something wrong with them. This Donghuang Baiji. It seems like there are still many things that I haven't explained. Your Honor, calm down, now is still not the time. If the Demon King appears now, today's plan would be ruined. Wei Chong was also trying his best to persuade His Honor. Your Honor, you have to calm down, don't be impulsive, impulsiveness is the devil. After Wei Chong finished speaking, he continued, Your Honor, if we were to interrogate them right now, by then, the entire city would know about it. Why don't we wait until nighttime, close the door and interrogate them properly? Yihua thought for a bit. What Wei Chong said is very right. If I were to go out and interrogate them right now, where would I put my face? Losing my face for this kind of thing is not worth it. After hearing that, Donghuang Baiji's expression turned cold. Don't deliberately mystify things here. If you want to say it, then say it. If you don't want to say it, then forget it. Qingye felt that something unexpected had happened today. Could it be that this Long Outyen and Jiu Yi are going to go against me? Aren't they afraid of me? At this moment, Jiu Yi hurriedly persuaded, Shu Wen, don't be impulsive, this voidless realm's background is still unclear, you cannot do this. Jiu Yi, aren't you thinking too highly of voidless realm? In your heart, you have already treated them as a legend, but in actuality, they are just too weak. Qi Shuwen had already decided, today is the day to take revenge. I have been waiting for this moment for far too long. Long Outyen who was at the side said in a low voice, Brother Shuwen, how about we do it another day? Qi Shuwen's expression immediately turned cold. Screw up at such a crucial moment. Screw up at any other matter, but screw up at this matter. That is equivalent to digging out my, Qi Shu Win's, ancestral grave. Out Yen, Jiu Yi, aren't the two of you going to help me? All these years, how I, Qi Shu Win, have treated the two of you, don't the two of you have any idea? When Jiu Yi and Long Out Yen heard what Qi Shu Win said, they immediately became speechless. From the perspective of benevolence and righteousness, Qi Shu Win had already done a lot of things for them. From the looks of it, all these years, everything that I have done was all for today. Qi Shu Win indeed had such a thought. The two of you, if you don't help me today, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Threat, this is a blatant threat. A threat that is not concealed at all. This makes one's hair stand on end. Qi Shu Win immediately thought of my family members that are still in Abyss City. My God. I was too careless. Jiu Yi also immediately thought of Xiao Bao, that scoundrel, to not even let off a dog. At this moment, no matter how good Qi Shu Win was in the past, he had now become a demon-level person. After all, using one's own kin to threaten someone, no matter how good the relationship is, it would still instantly crumble. This is something that can't be helped, it's just human nature. Qi Shu Win was very satisfied with their current expressions. This is exactly the kind of feeling that I wanted. If you are tactful, then you should just obediently help me. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were not fools, this fellow is obviously threatening people. In that case, Jiu Yi and Long Outyin definitely have something that can be used against them. This fellow is truly too shameless, he only knows how to bully honest people. What exactly do you want? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. From the looks of it, this person seems to be determined to cause trouble, and he came prepared. Qi Shu Win turned his head and looked towards Dong Huang Baiji, then said with a smile, Your Majesty, do you still remember the North-South martial arts competition back then? The North-South martial arts competition back then. How could Dong Huang Baiji possibly forget about it? On that day, she got rid of a lot of people that were against her. Are you a descendant of those families? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. Humph. No, I am not a descendant of any family, I am just a wanderer. I am someone that sits on the spectator stand and looks up to you, Your Majesty. Hearing this, Wei Chong hurriedly said, Your Honor, look, this is a misunderstanding. Yi Hua did not utter a word. He discovered that today's matter had become interesting. This man was actually the person who participated in the North-South martial arts competition back then. I still have some memories of that day, but I really can't remember anything. Qingye said faintly, however, after so many years have passed, have you changed at all? After finished speaking, they even signaled to each other. You are still on the spectator stand, you are just floating up, that's all. Chapter 1382. Qi Shu Win lowered his head and revealed a sarcastic smile. There was even a hint of bitterness in his smile. Perhaps this bitterness came from the many years of hard work. The present is not what it used to be. It couldn't be more suitable for me. The corners of Qi Shu Win's mouth curled up into a confident smile. Everyone else here is trash, only I, Qi Shu Win, am the truly awesome existence. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. What do you want then? Take my place. Replace your position. No. I want to be above all of you. Qi Shu Win spread open his arms and spat out these bold words. Everyone was shocked, causing the entire place to fall silent. Qi Shu Win was able to feel the shock that these ordinary people were feeling. However, these were just appetizers. How can you people understand me, Qi Shu Win? Both Jiu Yi and Long Outyin didn't know what to say. Isn't it great that you are living well in Abyss City? Although you are not the boss there, at the very least, you are still an outstanding youngster, and you are able to obtain the respect of everyone there. However, these are not enough to satisfy you, and you even want to annex Voidless Realm. My god, did he eat dragon's bile? Just thinking about it was terrifying. Empress, arrest all the robbers. Qing Yutong's voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone to go into a daze for a moment. All of our gazes were attracted by Qi Shuwen just now, and we missed the good show at the side. Why is it so fast? This won't do, this won't do. I have to redo it again. I didn't manage to see anything, I have suffered a huge loss. I feel like I have missed out on 100 million. Long Outyan and Zhou Yi turned their heads around to take a look, and they could see that Chang Hen and Chang Qing had already been captured alive by the yellow armored warrior. And those subordinates of mine who are acting high and mighty, isn't this a bit too fast? We were just chatting with each other, and you all already, is this still the sect leader and dean? You two are so weak, and you two still dare to come. Also, Qi Shuwen is also from the academy. Now that he has been captured, why don't you think of a way to escape? Qi Shuwen naturally saw it, and he was exceptionally shocked in his heart. The original plan was for the Meridian-breaking sect and the deity institution to attract the firepower, and then he could capture the Empress. However, who would have thought that before they could even finish acting cool, they would be captured? The two of you are the two big shots of the South. How could he be caught so carelessly? At least buy me some time. Do you think your strength is enough to be eaten by dogs? Chang Qing and Chang Hen were furious, and being held down by the yellow armored warrior behind them, they were completely unable to stand up. Sect leader. We must have definitely been poisoned. If not, how could we possibly be poisoned so quickly? One of the people began to deceive himself. However, this method of self-deception was still very useful. At least the people around him began to follow suit. Yes, 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 we must have been poisoned at the snack street. My stomach feels a little upset now, so I slowed down a few levels just now. Yes, yes, yes. These damned bastards must have planned this from the start. Sect Master, we've been tricked. Long hatred was very clear in his heart. We are not poisoned, it's just that our skills are not as good as the other parties, that's all. Just look at the other party's 3 people, and they were able to capture more than 10 of us. The foundation of this Wushu Empire is unimaginable. If one were to say that they were the main force of Voidless Empire, even Eternal Hatred himself wouldn't believe it. How could an empire have such a trump card so easily appear? For Wushu Empire to be able to become the head of the northern region, it was definitely not something that came about randomly. From the looks of it, we have fallen into a trap today. The 2 big shots from Broken Meridian Sect and Shin Academy came to the northern region to save their disciples, and in the end, both of them suddenly died. This kind of news will definitely spread to every corner of the world. Thinking about what everyone will be talking about in the future, Yi Yan's entire body feels uncomfortable. Dean. Yi Yan was moved in his heart. As expected of the Dean, even if he is kneeling, he still looks very dignified. Chang Qing gave Yi Yan an encouraging gaze, then said with an apologetic tone, Yi Yan, the Dean is useless. Yi Yan went into a daze, then hurriedly said, Dean, this has nothing to do with you. I am the one who dragged the Dean down, causing the Dean to end up like this. I, Yi Yan, am ashamed. Qing Yutong raised her hand and slapped onto Yi Yan's head. Shut up. Your acting is too exaggerated. What are you doing? If you have the ability to slap me, then slap a child. Chang Qing immediately started protecting Yi Yan, looking as if he was going to fight Qing Yutong to the death. Qing Yutong was also astonished. I didn't expect that the Dean would still be protecting Yan at this time. Not bad, not bad. Sect Master, Ali has caused trouble for you again. When Dong Wangli was young, she had caused quite a lot of trouble, causing Broken Vein Sect to be in a mess. However, Chang Han's expression was still stern, but his gaze was still doting on Dong Wangli. Chang Han laughed lightly. I am already used to it. if you don't cause trouble for me, I might not be used to it." Seeing that the sect master actually revealed out a comforting smile, Dong Huangli was very moved. "Father and mother should believe me now, right? It should be more or less enough. Later on, if they were to find out that all of this is fake, would both of them suddenly die?" Right now, Qi Shuwen was also a bit unable to remain calm. Looking at the situation, the other party's strength is very strong. The other party was dealt with in just a few minutes. According to the distribution of strength, my strength, seems like I am a bit unable to keep up. I didn't even think about this kind of sudden situation. Furthermore, the words that I said just now, everyone present was shocked. The turn of events is simply too fast. So fast that no one is able to react to it. Qingya slowly stretched out her hand and moved her finger, indicating to Qi Shuwen not to stand in the middle and block his line of sight. Qi Shuwen was stunned. He swallowed his saliva and subconsciously retreated to the side, standing there obediently. When he was done, he felt that something was wrong. What was he doing? Wasn't he here to wash away his shame? Why does it feel like I've been slapped in the face? Furthermore, they were beaten up so badly. Why were those few people able to capture the 2 big shots from the south alive, and there were also more than 10 small shots? Isn't it too easy? Why is it like this? My God! I, Qi Shuwen, have endured humiliation for more than 10 years, waiting for such a day, and you are telling me that I can't win? It made me, Qi Shuwen, look like the kind of person who would honestly level up, while others were the kind who would spend money to buy equipment. No matter how hard I played, I couldn't catch up. Damn it! Too abominable. Long Outyen and Lord Jiu heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Qi Shuwen didn't make a move. But this is such a huge loss of face. Do you even have the heart to die now? Does Qi Shuwen look like that kind of person who would commit suicide? He will only train even harder and wait for the next opportunity. Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji placed Qi Shuwen to the side first. I will slowly ask him about it later. To actually think that he wants to be above Wushu Empire, to actually be able to shout out such arrogant words, this is truly shocking. Chapter 1383. If you want to kill us, do as you wish. However, these 4 children are still young, please let them go. If you have any problems, come at us. Eternal Hatred shouted out loudly towards Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji. His tone was filled with a sense of righteousness, causing everyone to feel admiration for him. Could it be that he is the sect master of Meridian Break sect? This kind of selfless greatness is really moving. Dong Huangli and God Yu were also moved. The sect master actually sought death in order to save us. At this moment, Chang Qing shouted out, who didn't do anything wrong when they were young. They did indeed do something wrong, but their sins are not worthy of death. If they want to die, then come at us. Qingye praised in her heart, but she said faintly, since you two are so emotional and are willing to sacrifice your lives to save your own people, I will fulfill your wish. Along with Qingye's affirmation, the children seemed to have gotten into the role and shouted out reluctantly. Chang Qing and Chang Hen let out a breath. Empress, don't forget what you promised us. With so many of my people here as witnesses, I will not do anything that goes back on my word. That would be for the best. Chang Qing said gravely. He was facing death with equanimity. The fat butcher from just now walked over with his blade. However, Chang Qing suddenly said, "Don't spit out the wine, it's disgusting, fat butcher, sect master." Ding! Wei Chang, who was at the spectator seats, praised, "Your Honor, they seem to be sincere." Yi Hua nodded his head. No one can joke around with death. For them to be able to do this, they are indeed treating the children very well. But Your Honor, that man just now seemed to be very arrogant. Wei Chang added. He is indeed very arrogant, let's slowly deal with him later. Yi Hua said lightly. Yes. Your Honor. Right now, Chang Qing and Chang Hen let out a deep breath. They were already prepared to accept death. It was already good enough that they were able to save the children. Kill them. Donghuang Baiji shouted out coldly. Evergreen and everlasting hatred could feel the killing intent behind them. That was the coldness of the saber. They didn't expect that they would die like this. The fat butcher who was behind them raised his blade high up into the air and quickly descended. Swoosh! A silver light flashed. The crowd immediately quieted down. Chang Qing and Chang Hen felt a chill on their necks. Was this the feeling of death? The neck should have fallen onto the ground right now, a headless body should be spurting out blood, right? Should I open my eyes and take a look? To actually be able to retain a bit of consciousness when his head just fell off, the two of them slowly opened their eyes. The first thing they saw was the bluestone floor. They were a little confused. However, before he could even get rid of his doubts, a deafening applause rang out beside his ears. Applause? Why can I still hear the applause? Chang Qing and Chang Hen subconsciously raised their heads and looked at their surroundings, and discovered that everyone had stood up, and their gazes were filled with deep love and concern. What was going on? Chang Qing and Chang Hen looked at each other, dumbfounded. However, right at this time, a man floated out from the audience seating area. Greetings, Your Majesty. Everyone shouted in unison. Yi Hua finally appeared on the stage, and this signified that the show was coming to an end. All of the people in the surroundings were extras. To be more precise, when Chang Hen and the others walked into Wushu Empire, all of the people that they met were extras. This was the first time in history that there were so many extras, and the entire Wushu Empire was cooperating with them. This kind of ending was the most satisfying. If it was the other way around, it would make one's heart ache. Yi Hua slowly landed in front of the two of them and said lightly, "It has been hard on the two of you to take care of my children all these years." Your children? Chang Qing was dumbfounded. The four children stood up, and the iron chains on their hands instantly broke. Afterward, the four children helped Chang Qing and Chang Hen up. At this moment, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji flew down from the sky as well. With a gentle smile on their faces, Qingye said, "We have truly offended you all. That's right, we hope that you all can understand what we have done." Donghuang Baiji said apologetically, expressing that the two of you have passed the test, and that the two of you will not look for trouble in the future. After all, Yi Hua has enmity with the two of you. However, because the two of you love and care for your children so much, the enmity between the two of you will be ridden off. Chang Hen and the others still didn't react. Sect Master, Dean, this is our father and mother. Dong Huangli introduced. What? Chang Qing and Chang Hen finally came back to their senses, and they were so shocked that their hair was about to fall off. Wushu Empire's Emperor and Empress are actually the children's parents. My God, all these years, the children's parents indeed didn't come to visit them even once. I heard that it was only the first time the children were sent over. So it was them, sending the children over to my territory. Is it for information or what? However, they are already so strong, what use is there for them to obtain information like that? This kind of assumption doesn't seem to be valid either. Yi Hua seemed to know what the two of them were thinking, and said faintly, "You all don't have to worry too much. The main reason why I sent the children over to your territory to learn is to train their independence. I am very gratified that they have mentors like the two of you." The food and wine have already been prepared. After finished speaking, Yi Hua took the lead and left. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't leave. They naturally had to entertain the guests. "Yi Yan, are they really your parents?" Chang Qing still wanted to confirm. Yi Yan said embarrassedly, Dean, they are really our parents. We came back right after the competition ended, and because it was time, we didn't inform you all. This time, my parents were worried about you all, and thus, we used this method. We are truly sorry. Yi Yan was still very polite, and Qingye felt very comfortable looking at him. Yan, this child is still not bad. Chongqing and Chonghen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Such a thing actually happened. It really makes one feel helpless. What else can they say? The other party is so strong. However, fortunately, all of this is fake. Looking at the surrounding people who were applauding, Chonghen and Chongqing couldn't help but feel goosebumps. Are all of these people actors? To actually arrange so many people to act, is this emperor a demon? At this moment, Qingye came to Zhou Ye's side. Everyone, go and eat, and you too. Qingye especially took a look at Qi Shuwen. Right now, Qi Shuwen's mind was still in a daze. All of this is actually fake. Look at the others, they have clearly already passed the verification. And what about me? I still want to eat. Qi Shuwen, will not eat your family's food even if you beat me to death. An execution ground ended amidst cheers and laughter. This was also the execution ground that didn't have a murder case in history. The banquet was naturally held inside the palace, the guest pavilion. This palace was used to entertain foreign guests, but it wasn't used much before. Right now, a few tables were placed inside the guest pavilion. Yihua brought along Qingye, Donghuang Baiji, and Qing Yutong. Chapter 1384. Qi Shuwen was also among them, just that he was a bit restless, and his expression was very tense, as if he had been suffering from constipation for many years. However, Zhou Yi and Long Outyin did not have such a reaction, and they even felt rather happy to see their old acquaintances. The three of them even sat at the main table, together with Yihua and the others. Of course, Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green were also there. Yihua looked towards Zhou Yi. His impression of Zhou Yi was still very deep. Back then, it was because of Zhou Yi's help that things became much more convenient for me. After so many years, to be able to meet under such a situation, it can be considered a kind of fate. Zhou Yi, long time no see, it has been more than 10 years. Yihua looked at Zhou Yi and said lightly. In Zhou Yi's heart, this man was a super mysterious man. Back then, I didn't dare to do anything to him, and now, I also don't dare to do anything to him. However, now that I know that he is the man of Voidless Realm's Empress. If I knew back then, how would I have made a move against Voidless Realm? This is really a headache. Boss, it hasn't been many years, but you are still as elegant as before. Zhou Yi still used his old address to call Yihua. How have you been these years? Yihua asked with a seemingly concerned tone. Zhou Yi nodded his head and said with a smile, thanks to boss, I have been doing well these years. Qi Shuwen felt unhappy when he heard this. Thanks to him, or thanks to me, Qi Shuwen. Back then, both of you were still running away. If not for me, Qi Shuwen, who knows where you would be right now. However, what Long Outyin wanted to say was, if I didn't meet you back then, would have definitely come to Voidless Empire. Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green's expression became weird. So, they know each other. Since they know each other, why are they pretending not to know each other and even acting as if they want to overthrow Voidless Empire? After asking Zhou Yi for a while, Yihua's gaze landed on Long Outyin. The last time I met him. Back then, I only got to know Qingye not long ago. Thinking back to what happened that day, it felt like it happened just yesterday. But, this Long Outyin, back then, he almost became Qingye's fiancé, and Qingye was pushed down by me due to a freak combination of factors. Speaking of which, I have to thank this Long Outyin. Yihua did not directly ask Long Outyin, and instead said to Qingye, you met an old acquaintance, aren't you going to greet me? Look. Jealousy King Yi Ruo is extraordinary, he has already started to make things difficult for me. Qingye still doesn't know what Yi Hua is trying to say. It has already been so many years, and right now, Yi Hua has already given birth to 2 children for you, and yet, you are still so jealous? Can't you be a bit more mature and act like a child? Of course, the children didn't know who Long Outyen was, and didn't know about the matters that happened between Long Outyen and Qin Yutong, but Qin Yutong knew. In the past, Long Outyen had even wanted to hug a woman on his left and right, and in the end, after Long Outyen's brother-in-law completed this magnificent feat, Long Outyen disappeared, and only appeared now. You have a child, right? Qingye asked. This question was very appropriate, to prevent jealous King Yi from having any other thoughts. Long Outyen was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, yes, the child is already more than 10 years old. After hearing what Yi Hua said, Qingye was slightly surprised. However, this was also normal. However, Yi Hua thought to himself. Back then, this fellow's thoughts were already impure. I'm afraid that the number of wives he has right now is even higher than mine. He wanted to let Qingye know that it was a wise decision for her to choose him back then. How many beautiful wives have you married? Yi Hua asked faintly, as if he could already see the embarrassed look on Long Outyen's face. At the very least, it should be at least double digits, right? Long Outyen was indeed a bit embarrassed as he laughed, just one. Yi Hua, you are definitely lying, the main thing is that Qingye is here. With your thoughts back then, if you only marry one wife, I will go and eat shit. Qingye turned her head around and took a look at Yi Hua, as if saying. Look at other people, they all only have one wife, and look at you, you actually have 4 wives. Why did I step into your deep pit? No, this is a huge pit. Qin Yutong didn't really believe it and asked curiously, 1 main wife, and a lot of concubines, right? That must be the case, countless concubines. At this moment, Jiu Yi smiled and said, Outyen has changed a lot, all these years, he has only had 1 wife, I can testify to that. Yi Hua pretended not to hear what Jiu Yi said. They are definitely colluding together to lie to me, what guts. At this moment, Long Outyen asked, Qingye, Qin Yutong, I still have to apologize to you two for what happened back then. Back then, I was frivolous and immature. That was something that happened many years ago, forget it. Qingye laughed. For Long Outyen to have such a change, it was quite surprising. How have you been all these years? He should have treated you quite well, right? Long Outyen asked in a deadpan manner. Hearing this, Yi Hua seemed to have gone mad. What does it have to do with you whether I treat her well or not? Could it be that if I treat her badly, you still want to stand up for Qingye? The problem is. Are you sure that you want to stand up for me? Is there any use? He is still alright, I guess. Qingye pursed her lips and said lightly. Her tone was clearly saying that, he is not alright. Yi Hua was angered to the point of laughing. Long Outyen looked at Yi Hua and said seriously, although I am unable to defeat you, I will despise you in my heart. Everyone, such an awesome way of fighting, to actually despise the other party in my heart, to the point of hurting the other party without even making a move, I have finally learned such a profound way of fighting. In the future, when I am unable to defeat the other party, I will just say it out and despise the other party deeply. The children all laughed out loud. This was the first time they had seen someone say such words to their father. This person was really amazing. However, from the conversation just now, he could tell that they knew each other in the past. It even felt like a love triangle. No way, Dad is in a love triangle with someone else. Did he snatch his mother from this man? I feel that this is so awesome, Dad must be threatening people in all kinds of ways. That must be it. After that, when the child was with me, everything became a foregone conclusion. Seems like father is an expert in the field of love, an expert. Yi Yan realized that I have to teach Chiyu a few moves with my father later on so that I can take down Chiyu as soon as possible so that I can give you all grandchildren. Yi Yan, I'm not thinking for myself. I am thinking for my parents. Otherwise, you will be too bored. It will be much more comfortable for your grandson to take care of him. Yi Hua snorted coldly and did not want to pay attention to him. In his heart, he was thinking, back then, didn't I tell Wei Chang to properly look after me? Why did I let him out just like that? However, what Yi Hua didn't expect was that this kind of order would be passed down level by level, and in the end, it would be passed down to Death Assassin. Yi Hua was still able to see through Long Outyan's change. If not, Long Outyan wouldn't have become like this. Chapter 1385. If he was still the same as before, he would have already given him a slap. However, right now, Yi Hua's mood wasn't very good. Thus, Yi Hua looked towards Qi Shuwen. Qi Shuwen, who lowered his head slightly, was able to feel that this man seemed to be staring at him. What does he want to do? Could it be that he wanted to kill him? He had only spoken arrogantly. It didn't seem to be a crime worthy of death. You. I seem to have seen you somewhere before. Yi Hua said lightly, and his tone seemed exceptionally cold. Qi Shuwen went into a daze, then raised his head and looked towards Yi Hua. I completely have no impression of him at all. Where have I seen him before? I've never seen him before, okay? Probably not. Qi Shuwen said weakly. Yi Hua recalled something and said to Qin Ye and Qin Yutong, I still don't remember. Back then, when we were eating at a seafood restaurant, Tang Wei seemed to have knocked over a fish. I remember now. Qin Yutong clapped her hands, and her memories immediately surged out. She even recalled that she seemed to have seen him before in that water city, and she also remembered the words Qi Shuwen said, I can't afford to climb up to him. That was simply laughable. That day, Wei Chang rushed over and even beat up that manager, and it was Qi Shuwen who acted and saved that fish. After being reminded by Yi Hua, Qin Ye also remembered. So it's you. Qin Ye said lightly. However, she didn't understand. Yi Hua and I don't seem to have become enemies with him, so why would he be so hostile towards us? Was it because of jealousy? Qin Ye's guess was indeed correct. Qi Shuwen's jealousy was not an ordinary kind of strong, which was why he became like this. Qi Shuwen was a bit at a loss as to what to do. That day, Yi Hua brought along his wife and sister-in-law and sat at the innermost seat, thus Qi Shuwen didn't see what happened. However, Yi Hua and the others saw what happened very clearly. Yi Hua asked curiously, what did you mean by what you said on the execution ground just now? You want to stand above me? No, that's not what I meant. Qi Shuwen quickly corrected himself. Then, what do you mean? Qin Yutong asked curiously. Qi Shuwen felt that this woman was simply a demon. Back then, during my wedding, she actually caused trouble. She is truly a person who is haunted by grievances. I'm just trying to buy time for them. Qi Shuwen suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Lord Jiu and Long Outyan didn't say anything after hearing what Lord Jiu said. Take it as me returning you a favor. Lord Jiu obviously wanted to mess with Voidless Empire. He actually said that he was stalling for time, but that didn't seem to be wrong either. Then why did you threaten them? Qin Ye asked. Qi Shuwen's intelligence had reached its peak, and his brain was working furiously. Because they had doubts about my plan, that's why they discovered that. After Qi Shuwen finished speaking, he felt that he was a genius. He could actually come up with such a lie so easily. Qingye looked towards Zhou Yi and Long Outyan. Soon after, the latter nodded his head, helping Qi Shuwen to lie. As for speaking up for Qi Shuwen, it was also to repay the debt of all these years, because he had also saved Qi Shuwen's life. If he said anything now, he was sure that Qi Shuwen would definitely die. Qi Shuwen let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, these two are tactful and didn't sell me out, if not, your family would be in danger. Yehua and the others weren't fools, and they were naturally able to see through some clues. However, they didn't say anything. Let's put this matter aside first and settle the score later. After all, today's main characters were Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green. Two sirs, thank you for taking care of the children all these years, thank you. Yehua had also seen it today. In order to save the children, Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green were not even afraid of death. Such an action, if it wasn't protecting the children, then what was it? Although they were enemies in the past, from what happened to the children, it could be seen that the two of them merely had different standpoints. If the two of them were evil people, they definitely wouldn't have made the choice just now. For the children, I have to put aside all my grudges with this person. I, the Supreme Overlord, am also a father, and I have to be a good role model for my children. I can't let my children think that I, the Supreme Overlord, am a reasonable person. As long as they talk nicely, I, the Supreme Overlord, will still listen to them. Your Majesty, your children are all very talented. What else could Eternal Hatred say? After discovering such a matter, he could only face it with a smile. Eternal Green was also feeling helpless in his heart. For me to encounter such a thing in my life, this is truly mystical. That is only natural. Yehua was a bit floating. My children are definitely top-notch existences. However, hearing other people praising my children, I still feel pretty good in my heart, not just a normal kind of good feeling. Right now, I can finally understand why those people often use their children as a comparison. When the parents of outstanding children have light shining on their faces, they would be very proud of themselves, and they would be able to show off everywhere. Right now, I, the Supreme Overlord, also want to go everywhere and show off, but my identity doesn't allow me to. Sometimes, I really wish that I, the Supreme Overlord, am an ordinary person, so that I can properly go and show off for a bit. If I have the chance, I can even be an ordinary person in my next life. Being a boss is indeed very tough. Yehua raised his wine cup and stood up. Sirs, let me toast to the two of you. There was simply no one who could make Yehua toast to, and this time, it was all because of the children. Of course, everyone had to stand up. After all, right now, they were still prisoners and had not been let off yet. After gulping down the wine cup in one gulp, Yehua said with a smile, "Everyone, enjoy the delicacies." These dishes were specially prepared by a top-notch chef. Right now, Chongqing asked with a joking tone, "Your Majesty, what if another situation occurs?" Yehua said faintly, "If that happens, there would be no share for the two of you." As expected, Chongqing and Chongqing were very glad that they made the right choice and managed to escape from this calamity. However, these dishes are really fragrant. I have simply never eaten these dishes before. My God! Does this emperor only eat these things every day? This is simply too extravagant, too delicious. What kind of meat is this? Why does it taste like fish? My God, just how did this chef make these dishes? Should I secretly kidnap this chef out so that we can properly learn from him? This is too delicious, so fragrant. Long Outyan and Zhou Yi also tasted the taste of their hometown, and their noses started to feel a bit sour. However, Qi Shuwen didn't know what the taste was at all. The biggest taste that he felt was that the taste was bitter, and it wasn't fragrant at all, and it was no different from poison. However, just as everyone was thinking of eating the delicacies, a few unknown auras suddenly entered everyone's mind. These auras were clearly intentionally emitted out. Chongqing and Chongqing's faces sunk. These people don't come with good intentions. At the same time, they looked towards Yehua. Qi Shuwen also sensed the auras, and hope appeared in his eyes. Retribution is coming. It's coming. Chapter 1386. This aura was clearly filled with hostility and killing intent. For him to be able to charge towards Wushu Empire so openly, it could be seen that he was very confident. Perhaps he couldn't do it, but this group of people could. It was really satisfying. At this moment, Qi Shuwen's grievances were completely gone. Yihua's expression was still so calm. I am a little familiar with this aura, it should be those guardians. It seemed that these guardians were all gathered together. Lin Fan didn't know why they were here, but he was very curious. Qinye and Donghuang Baiji were a bit worried. These people did not come with good intentions. For them to be so brazen, this made them feel even more astonished. Several powerful auras quickly entered the sky above Voidless Empire. The people in the Imperial Palace all sensed this, and they all appeared in the sky above the Imperial Palace. The scale of this attack was unprecedented, and it could be said that all of them had been mobilized. Because Wei Changzai is currently accompanying His Honor to eat, he can be considered to be absent. Since Wei Chang was not present, Zhu Tian became the commander of the team. Looking at the four people in front of him, one of them was even Ren Yao, who he was familiar with. However, the current Ren Yao was no longer the Ren Yao from before. His face was cold and his bald head had grown hair. It seemed that the reason why he was bald before was because his strength had not recovered. Now that his strength had recovered and his hair had grown out, he was a very handsome man. Although she was handsome, she was no longer the Ren Yao that everyone liked. Within the group, there was still that Su Diao, the first guardian, and the female guardian, Xing Tsang, whom Yihua had met in the past. However, the three of them were standing behind the black-clothed guardian. It was obvious that the black-clothed guardian was the leader. The entire team didn't seem to be very solemn, on the contrary, they seemed to have let out a sigh of relief. All these years, His Honor has always been worried that he would be responsible for this matter. Now that the other party has formed a team, as long as we exterminate all of them. In that case, all of the troublesome matters will be sorted out, and His Honor will not have any thoughts of abdicating his position. Thinking up to this point, everyone became restless, and they wished for nothing more than to crush the other party right now. They were truly extraordinarily courageous. You're all here. That's good, the black-robed guardian said softly, as though he wanted to see such a scene. Absolute heaven would naturally retaliate when faced with his enemy's contempt. The air instantly became oppressive, and the breeze became bone-chilling. The air was fluctuating, bringing along with it an ice-cold killing intent. Xing Tsang, the female guardian, suddenly moved. Her slender fingers suddenly froze, as if she was taking out her weapon. He had indeed taken it out, but it didn't have any form, at least, no one saw it. Kai Yun's expression tightened, and his figure instantly vanished. The execution ground suddenly stabbed towards the black-clothed guardian. The entire air seemed to solidify, and one could see the air compressing with the naked eye, creating a small vortex. Such a simple stab could actually break through the air. It could be seen that this guardian really lived up to his reputation. White Bones had just made its move. As an absolute assassin, it could assassinate its opponent in all directions, and the opponent wouldn't even know how they died. However, Xing Tsang had seen through his plan. Furthermore, if Xing Tsang were to stab out with his own weapon, Xing Tsang would definitely be able to kill Xing Tsang. If not, how could Kai Yun possibly make a move? However, the guardian seemed to want to get off to a good start. Ren Yao's figure flashed, and she actually appeared in front of Kai Yun, causing Kai Yun to stop instantly. If one were to say who had the last relationship with Ren Yao, then it would definitely be Kai Yun and Yi Zizi. Back then, Kai Yun and Yi Zizi had teased Ren Yao quite a bit. That was why when this happened, Kai Yun subconsciously stopped. He didn't immediately make a move, and he seemed to be struggling a little. Die. However, Yi Zizi was not that easy to talk to. Furthermore, it was the kind where they would never come into contact with each other. This punch of hers was very angry, causing Ren Yao's handsome hairstyle to flutter crazily to one side, and the pressure caused Ren Yao's expression to congeal. Bang! A huge circle of light exploded out from the two's fists. Everyone looked towards the sky and looked at this terrifying scene. The circle of light that was emitted blew away the clouds, and everyone seemed to be able to see spots of starlight. My hairstyle has been messed up by you. Ren Yao slowly turned his head around and looked towards Yi Zizi. However, Yi Zizi's face was filled with astonishment, and Kai Yun's expression was the same as well. The two of them never expected that Ren Yao would actually be able to withstand Yi Zizi's angry punch, and even be able to speak. This fellow can't be pretending, right? Just as Yi Zizi was feeling doubtful, the pressure in the air instantly pressed down on Yi Zizi. Ren Yao's left fist directly smashed towards Yi Zizi's head. His entire left hand was covered by red flames, and the flames surged out with astonishing temperature. Yi Zizi wasn't weak at all, and her small fist once again smashed upwards, welcoming this fiery and ferocious fist. Boom! A loud sound immediately rang out from the sky, causing everyone to feel as if the sky was going to split open. A gaseous substance that contained flames spread out in the sky in a circular shape. The entire sky seemed to have turned into a blood-red color, and this kind of terrifying aura caused everyone to feel very uncomfortable. The residents even felt a sense of crisis. This was a feeling that they had never felt before, a sense of crisis. Voidless Empire is actually able to make people feel a sense of crisis. This is simply something unimaginable. Yi Zizi took a look at her fist. Her pure white small fist was currently black, as if it had been rolled in charcoal. Right now, the other people in the party were also very astonished. Yi Zizi could be considered as the symbol of the party's strength, but Ren Yao was actually able to receive a punch from Yi Zizi, and was even able to counterattack a punch, causing Yi Zizi's fist to become black. This is too terrifying. Just what did he do these few days? Even if his strength recovered, he shouldn't be this strong, right? Ren Yao looked at Yi Zizi and said faintly, "Back then, if my strength had recovered, I definitely wouldn't have been defeated by you." From the looks of it, Ren Yao wasn't feeling good about being completely defeated by Yi Zizi back then. In terms of strength, Ren Yao claimed to be invincible, yet, he lost to a child. Right now, I can finally hold my head high, I feel great. On the other side, Zhu Tian had already made his move, if not, White Bones would be in danger. However, right after Zhu Tian made his move, he was immediately stopped by Su Diao. However, Zhu Tian looked at the black-clothed guardian and said coldly, "Do you think that with just the few of you, you will be able to stop me?" "Nope, I just want to take a look, that's all." The black-clothed guardian said faintly. He didn't put the people in front of him in his eyes at all. Right after the black-clothed guardian finished speaking, Xing Tsang's expression turned cold. White Bones, who was in the air, could feel an aura of death engulfing him. This is simply like a natural counter to each other. "Since you are here, come in and have a meal." A voice suddenly rang out. Xing Tsang immediately kept his sword, because he sensed a dangerous aura. White Bones let out a huge breath of relief. How can his honor not make his move? A trace of an arc appeared on the black-clothed guardian's mouth, indicating for the three to not make their move. Chapter 1387. In that case, let's have some food and have a good chat, the black-clad man said with a smile. He then led the three of them down to the palace below. The crowd stood in a row, seemingly not wanting to let these people pass. However, this was his honor's order. "Everyone, get out of the way," Absolute Heaven said in a deep voice. Everyone moved aside unwillingly. When Yi Hong and LV Liang looked at the man in black, it was as if they were looking at a stranger. "After being together for so many years, I didn't expect that this black-clothed guardian would be so evil." Just like that, the four black-clothed men walked past everyone. This kind of situation was also unprecedented. Of course, everyone knew what his honor was trying to do, but was this really a good thing? It was too embarrassing for these four people to be so arrogant. In the banquet hall, Yi Hua put down his chopsticks, and with a deep gaze, he looked at the entrance of the banquet hall. The others were the same as well, quietly waiting. From the clash just now, they could feel that the battle was on a completely different level. But what made one curious was that such a powerful tremor should have caused a destructive blow to Voidless Empire. For example, the inside of Voidless Empire would crack open. Indeed, with such a clash of fists against fists, the entire Wushu Empire would definitely be affected. However, Wushu Empire was under Yi Hua's command, so how could Yi Hua possibly allow the two's auras to shake the entire Wushu Empire? Thus, it was very good for Yi Hua to take revenge on Wushu Empire. The four figures steadily landed at the entrance. Yi Hua looked at the guards and didn't say anything. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's expressions tensed up. Their women's intuition was telling them that these people were not here for anything good. The four children were even prepared to kill him to eliminate any hidden dangers for their father. Right now, the banquet hall was completely surrounded by his honor's subordinates. As long as his honor gives the command, all of them will be beaten to a pulp. "Since you are already here, come over and have a chat with me," Yi Hua said faintly. Wei Chang stood up and walked over to stand behind Yi Hua. The black-clothed guardian walked over with a smile and sat on Wei Chang's seat. He scanned the delicacies on the table, but of course, he didn't move his chopsticks. The other three guardians stood behind the black-clothed guardian and waited quietly. Qi Shuwen almost laughed like a pig. "Look at these people, so awesome. They were not afraid of this man at all. That was great. Hurry up and kill them. Kill them." Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green suddenly felt that their world was too small. In front of others, they might be big shots, but in front of these big shots, they were just little brothers. Suddenly, the black-clothed guardian looked towards Qi Shuwen, and this gaze seemed to contain a very profound meaning. After the black-clothed guardian finished looking at Qi Shuwen, the black-clothed guardian looked towards Qi Shuwen. Yi Hua, on the other hand, gave him a casual look. "Puchi." Qi Shuwen, who was laughing in his heart, suddenly felt a chill in his chest. He looked down with a puzzled expression, but he didn't see anything. This feeling was like a dream. He turned his head and looked behind him. That woman was standing behind him without him noticing, and she was in a stabbing position. This sudden situation caused everyone to be shocked. Of course, Yi Hua was the only one who was shocked. "This man is very weak, but he wants me to kill you." "Interesting," the black-clothed guardian said with a smile. Yi Hua picked up the wine glass and took a sip. "You don't have any self-awareness." "That's right," the black-clothed guardian replied casually. Qi Shuwen finally knew who these people were. These people didn't even ask for his permission. "Kill me. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. I, Qi Shuwen, am the man who rules this world. I, Qi Shuwen, have just taken a step forward. I can't die here. I'm going to kill." Before Qi Shuwen could finish his words, his entire body seemed to have been sucked into the air and disappeared. Everyone looked at the empty space and sucked in a breath of cold air. So strong. An overlord died just like that. and he didn't even give others a chance to finish their words. Towards Qi Shuwen's death, Yi Hua and the others didn't have any abnormalities. However, Long Outyan and Zhou Yi felt a little apologetic in their hearts. After all, Yi Hua had helped them for so many years, and now that Yi Hua was gone in front of them, they felt a little upset. However, when they thought about how Yi Hua was threatening them just now, that bit of upset disappeared. "Shall we have a good chat?" the black-clothed guardian said lightly. "Sure, you all can leave first." Yi Hua nodded his head and said to the surrounding people. "Qinya didn't feel at ease, let us accompany you here. Be obedient." Yi Hua didn't explain too much. This was Yi Hua's personality, and explaining wasn't Yi Hua's style. Qinya and the others also understood. After informing Yi Hua to be careful, they stood up and left. Worry appeared in the eyes of the children, but when they thought about their father's strength, they became slightly more at ease. "Your Honor, if there's anything, just inform us," Wei Chang said in a low voice, then left the scene. Eternal Hatred and Eternal Green couldn't help but turn their heads and take a look. "We feel that this is how a serious negotiation should be, and what we are doing is just like playing house." The door of the banquet hall slowly closed, and soon after, the ray of sunlight disappeared as the banquet hall entered darkness. Yi Hua habitually took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at Plain Eagle and said, "Long time no see." "Long time no see." Plain Eagle nodded her head, seeming to be very polite. Soon after, Yi Hua looked towards Xingcang and nodded his head. "I would like to ask you something." Yi Hua flicked the cigarette ash and asked while looking at the black-clothed guardian. "Please ask." The black-clothed guardian spread out his hands and said, "Only the four of you?" "Yes, only the four of us guardians." The black-clothed guardian was very sure. Yi Hua nodded his head, then continued asking, "Have you all recovered your memories?" "Yes." "Do you know what you are going to do?" "Of course." "Then, what are you going to do?" Yi Hua asked curiously. The black-clothed guardian laughed lightly. "What we are going to do is naturally to protect, otherwise, why would we be called guardians?" "Then, what exactly are you all going to protect?" Yi Hua had been thinking about this question for the past few years. He really wanted to know what they were going to protect, he was simply too curious. However, after asking this question, Yi Hua continued asking, "Oh right, I still don't know your name." "Oh, my name is Ping." "Ping?" "Yes, it's a very simple word, not very complicated." Ping said lightly, his tone seemed very calm. To be precise, it had always been this tone. The cigarette ash in Yi Hua's hand was already very long, but he didn't take a puff and continued asking the question just now. "I would like to ask you, what do you want to protect?" "What I want to protect is naturally my big family," Yi Hua said without hesitation, appearing to be very confident. After hearing that, Ping said with a slight smile, "Indeed, a man has to protect his own family, but as a man with strength, protecting a family is only a small part of what a man should do. I am not a saint, the life and death of others have nothing to do with me," Yi Hua said gravely. The meaning behind what Yi Hua said was as if he was trying to get Ping to change for the better. Chapter 1388. Ping still appeared very calm as he said softly, "Yi Hua, what we are protecting isn't justice or evil, but the common people in the world." Hearing this answer, Yi Hua's mouth twitched, as if this is the answer that I don't want to hear the most, and it's the most cliché answer. According to the script, you guys should be protecting a powerful person, and then the powerful person will become evil, and the powerful person will consume you and turn you into an even more powerful person. After that, the Supreme Overlord will appear and destroy the powerful person with a single punch, and that will be the end. This is the normal script, why did it become like this? This makes me feel very uncomfortable. Then, you guys should quickly go and protect the powerful person after you finish your meal. I am very busy recently, and I don't have the time to be a hero. Yihua no longer had the mood to chat, he was extremely bored. Ping stood up with a smile, then said to Yihua, "You are a good person." After speaking, Ping left with the other 3 people. You are a good person. When Yihua heard these words, his expression turned even darker. This is completely mocking me. Do I look like a good person? I am not a good person to begin with. When the people outside saw the 4 people walking out, they immediately surrounded them. Right now is the best time to kill them, and they cannot waste it. Let them go. A voice rang out in Yihua's ears. At this moment, all of the anticipation that Yihua had originally had vanished into thin air. The subordinates didn't understand, but they didn't dare to ask and directly moved aside. Ping stood with his hands behind his back and said to everyone with a smile, "Your His Honor doesn't mean what he says." After speaking, Ping left with his people. However, when they heard such an evaluation, the subordinates felt that this person indeed understood his honor very well. Everyone rushed into the banquet hall. Just what was said just now. However, Chang Qing, Chang Hen, and the others didn't enter. I feel that I don't have the status to enter, and I have also underestimated Wushu Empire. They quickly dispelled the thoughts in their minds. These are all big shots, and we are all just little brothers. After walking into the banquet hall, everyone saw that His Honor was currently eating, and he seemed to be very relaxed. However, when they saw that poker face of his, they knew that he wasn't feeling very good. At this time, it is best not to anger His Honor. I can only rely on His Honor's wife. Yihua, what's the situation? Donghuang Baiji came and sat beside Yihua. Yihua placed down his chopsticks and wiped his mouth with a napkin. He then raised his head and looked at his subordinates, nothing much. All of His Honor's subordinates were confused, and they completely didn't know what His Honor was trying to say. Yihua had originally thought that these people might be protecting that fortune teller, or that they might be that fortune teller's subordinates. However, his guess was completely wrong, there was no such thing at all. Just who exactly was that fortune teller? The reason why Yihua wasn't in a good mood was because of this problem. Not being able to get any information about the fortune teller was something that Yihua couldn't control. Towards things that he couldn't control, Yihua felt a bit uncomfortable. After all, he was a perfectionist, and he wanted to know everything clearly. Is that true? Qinya, who was at the side, asked concernedly, and the children also raised their heads and looked at Qinya with a puzzled gaze. Yihua nodded his head, then stood up. All right, all of you can leave now. These people will not come and disturb us in the future. After finished speaking, Yihua walked out of the banquet hall by himself. Towards Yihua's abnormal behavior, everyone was already used to it. After all, His Honor had been like this for the past few years. I feel that something is wrong, Qing Yutong said in a low voice. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji remained silent. They were truly unable to understand Yihua's thoughts. Other people say that a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the ocean, and this man is the same as well. Walking on the path of the imperial palace, Yihua slightly narrowed his eyes and lit up the cigarette between his fingers. However, he didn't smoke it, seemingly as if he was pondering about something. These people wouldn't have come over for no reason. From the way they asked me, I can feel that they seemed to have met with something that they couldn't solve, and they needed my help. However, I really don't have any interest in saving people. If they were to beg me, I might lend them a helping hand. Letting out a light sigh, Yihua wanted to take a puff of the cigarette, but the cigarette was already completely burnt. Letting out a low laugh, Yihua extinguished the cigarette but with his foot, then walked towards his bedroom. On the other side, the 4 people had already left Wushu Empire and were flying towards the depths of the north. All of their faces were very solemn. Ren Yao, have you vented your anger? Ping asked with a low laugh. With a smile on her face, Ren Yao nodded her head, I have. Finally, Yi Zizi was able to exchange fists with Yi Zizi. That's good, this way, there won't be any regrets. Ping's words caused the other three people to laugh. Su Diao said lightly, in other words, I feel that he is quite good, he just wants face. I agree with this point. After all, I have been in Wushu Empire for so long. Ren Yao laughed loudly. In the past 10+ years, this can be counted as the happiest thing that happened to me. Xingcang, what do you think? Ping turned his head around and asked Xingcang curiously. Me? I'm not familiar with him. Xingcang seemed to be a bit cold. Ping didn't continue questioning Xingcang and said slowly, this time, I was able to come out in time because of the heaven's blessing. The four of us are guardians, and protecting the common people is our duty, even if we have to pay with our lives. After hearing what Ping said, the three people remained silent. They knew how serious the matter was, and this time, they might have to pay with their lives. We haven't even reunited for a few days, and it seems like we are going to be separated again. What a pity, let's just become ordinary people in our next lives. Ping said lightly with a helpless tone. The gazes of Ren Yao, Su Diao, and Xingcang immediately became firm. The four people increased their speed again and flew towards the depths of the north. In Wushu Empire, the curtain of night had descended, and darkness enveloped Wushu Empire. However, the darkness was unable to stop Wushu Empire's celebration. Such a terrifying matter happened today, and it was resolved perfectly. All of Wushu Empire's citizens were celebrating. However, inside the bedroom, Yi Hua was lying on a chair with his eyes closed and slowly shaking. Steam was emitting out from the teacup beside him. Yi Hua, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly wrinkled his brows. The darkness in front of him suddenly became bright, and he actually appeared in a white and clean world. There was nothing in front of him, and everything in front of him was completely blank. Not right, Yi Hua saw a figure not far away from him. The figure was sitting cross-legged on the ground, and the figure was wearing a tattered Daoist robe, and there was even a tattered flag stuck on the Daoist robe at the side. Fortune teller, fortune teller, fortune teller. Looking at the figure, Yi Hua's gaze immediately became serious. Of course, the fortune teller was also secretly creating an illusion for me. I didn't expect that the fortune teller would come again. Is this fortune teller really that formidable? Even my original self is unable to escape from this kind of illusion. Just who are you? What is your purpose? Yi Hua's tone was a bit impatient, and it was very abnormal. At this moment, he was completely unable to maintain his calm. The fortune teller was still sitting on the ground, and there was no reaction from him. This caused Yi Hua to be very angry. I hate people who act cool like this the most. Chapter 1389. Towards this kind of poser, I must use the most terrifying technique to destroy him. Yi Hua's body instantly emitted out a sea of blood and appeared behind him. If one looked closely at this sea of blood, one would be able to see many figures struggling as if they were drowning. Suddenly, the sea of blood covered the fortune teller like a waterfall. Countless bloody hands seemed like they wanted to grab hold of this deceiving old man and torture him ruthlessly to let him know the consequences of deceiving others and acting cool. Following a muffled sound, the sea of blood swallowed the fortune teller. Yi Hua snorted coldly. That's all there is to it. If I get a bit more serious, you would be dead. To actually dare to play with a big sword in front of me and create such an illusion, you must be tired of living. After waiting for a few minutes, Yi Hua waved his hand and the sea of blood disappeared without a trace. But Yi Hua's gaze was filled with shock. Although this sea of blood wasn't a trump card, it was still the second last trump card. Even Wei Chang and the others wouldn't feel good from it. Look at this fortune teller, he is actually sitting cross-legged so calmly. Come over and have a chat, I don't have any ill intentions towards you. The fortune teller finally spoke. This kind of tone carried a bit of emptiness, as if he was someone who was in control of the world. Yihua had seen people who knew how to act cool, but the only one who could act so vividly was this fortune teller old man. All right. I want to hear what kind of nonsense you can come up with. Yihua walked a few steps forward and stood in front of the fortune teller. He looked down at this old man and really wanted to break this old man's neck. Sit. Not sitting. All right. Yihua, what do you think about choices? The fortune teller asked lightly. Yihua's brows twitched and said indifferently, I always give others choices. Life and despair. Yes, what I hope to see is despair. That kind of expression can reflect a kind of essence. The fortune teller nodded his head, that's right, if you look at the expression of despair too many times, you will get addicted to it. That expression will give you a feeling of being at the top of the clouds. But Yihua, have you ever thought that you would also have such a day? Yihua went into a daze for a moment. Although he was laughing out loud, this might be the most insane laughter that Yihua had ever laughed out loud. However, his laughter was a bit strange, and it wasn't that kind of sarcasm. It seemed like he was laughing out of his own helplessness, or perhaps something else. Everyone is equal, the only difference lies in the difference in their own value. Yihua, you have top-notch abilities, a group of subordinates that are loyal to you, a wife and children, a complete family. The fortune teller paused for a moment, then continued, however, these are just one family, there are tens of thousands of families under the heavens. Before the fortune teller could finish speaking, Yihua asked coldly, you are the lobbyist that the guardian called over, right? Guardians have their own responsibilities. I just want to tell you one thing. In a world without people, what's the point of your existence? Perhaps you can survive, but in the end, you will be alone. You gave others a choice in the past, but this time, I will give you a choice. Life or death, it's your choice. We'll never meet again. Wait for me. Speak clearly. Yihua roared. He wanted to stretch out his hand and grab onto that lump of nothingness, but no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to grab onto that lump of nothingness. Yihua. 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 The anxious voice of Qingye and the others rang out beside Yihua's ears. Right when they came in, they saw that Yihua was acting strangely. Yihua was lying on the rocking chair while sweating profusely, and both of his hands were even trembling non-stop, as if he was having a nightmare. As expected, in the end, Yihua actually let out a strange cry. Yihua suddenly opened his eyes and subconsciously grabbed onto Qingye's wrist. Perhaps because he used a bit of strength, Qingye tightly wrinkled her brows, but she did not say anything. Capture that old man. Yihua shouted out coldly, and a drop of sweat flowed out from his forehead. This was the first time that Donghuang Baiji saw Yihua's expression like this. This is fear, fear, fear. Qingye was stupefied, and there was also Qin Yutong and Qian Yuqing who were at the side. Yihua's expression made them feel afraid. This kind of expression shouldn't appear on Yihua's face. Yihua, there's no old man, you had a nightmare just now. Qingye said tenderly as she lightly hugged onto Yihua. Right now, Yihua was gasping for breath, and he had also realized what had happened. Only after quite a while did he stabilize himself. All right, I indeed had a nightmare just now. Yihua said lightly, feeling a bit helpless. Qian Yuqing asked concernedly, Yihua, what kind of nightmare did you have? Yihua laughed lightly, you all ran away from home together, I am so angry that I want to break your legs. Go to hell. Qingye poked onto Yihua's head petulantly. Dong Huang Baiji smiled. Let's go and eat. Yan, and Shin Er's marriage is going to be decided soon. We just have to meet the other party's parents and choose a good date, then we will be at ease. Yihua did not oppose and nodded his head. You all can decide, let's go and eat first. Since her husband had agreed to it, Qingye and the others were naturally happy, but they did not notice Yihua's abnormality. While eating, the family discussed about the marriage. As the people involved in the marriage, the 4 children were naturally very shy. They were actually about to step into the grave of marriage. Especially Chuyu, she felt as if she was dreaming. Just now, my mother even asked me if I want to marry Brother Yan, and I actually tacitly agreed to it in my heart. I was obviously acting. Lu Jing was also very gratified. The younger generation is going to get married and have children. This is truly a happy occasion. After the meal, Qingye and the others continued to stay behind and discuss about the details. Yihua did not participate in the discussion and returned to his bar, then sat at the bar counter and poured himself a cup of wine. Cigarettes and wine, these are truly things that men must have. Looking at the surroundings inch by inch, Yihua's thoughts couldn't help but float away. This fortune teller is actually letting me make a choice. I am such a selfish person, how can I possibly die for others? I, the Supreme Overlord, will never make a choice in my entire life. So what if there is no one else? It is fine as long as my family members are still around. All of you can go to hell. 1 month later, on this night, the stars were exceptionally bright. The entire Wushu Empire was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and the atmosphere was festive. Because tomorrow was the wedding day of the 2 little sovereigns, the entire empire was going to celebrate together. Right now, Yihua was sitting in the imperial garden, listening to Qian Yuqing's zither skills, and beside him was his sister-in-law who was brewing tea. As for Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji, they naturally still had a lot of things to prepare. After all, tomorrow was her son's wedding day, and as a mother, I definitely can't be careless. Brother-in-law, have some tea. The mischievous Qin Yutong said with a teasing tone. Yihua opened his eyes, then stretched out his hand and knocked onto Qin Yutong's forehead. The latter pouted her small mouth and acted cute. How old are you already, and yet you still have this kind of expression on your face? Yihua couldn't help but ridicule. I am 18, all right. Brother-in-law is so hateful. Qin Yutong used her small fist. After hearing that, Yihua laughed lightly, then took a deep breath. Chapter 1390. Brother-in-law, why do you look unhappy? Am I? Of course I am, look at your face. Yihua touched his face and said lightly, perhaps, I am too happy. Now that Yan, and Shin are married, Ali and Lu should hurry up too. Yihua didn't think so, they have high standards, it won't be that easy to find a man. That's right, as an aunt, I'm so worried. What are you worried about? Brother-in-law, you should go and rest early, there are still a lot of things to do tomorrow. The big shots from the north and south will all be coming, don't have a panda eye. Qin Yutong smiled lightly and couldn't help but stretch out her hand and caress Yihua's face. You two should rest early too, tomorrow is indeed a bit tiring. Qian Yuqing walked over slowly and draped the woolen coat over Yihua. Yihua, see you tomorrow. What, aren't the 2 of you going to serve me in bed? Yihua teased. Qian Yuqing said with a mischievous tone, there are a lot of things to do tomorrow, I have to preserve my strength. You two have a lot of things to do. Yihua knocked on the door and returned to his bedroom. After taking off his clothes, Yihua lied on the big bed, his face was still filled with worry. During this 1 month, he thought about a lot of things, but in the end, he still didn't have a choice. After lying on the bed for an unknown amount of time, Yihua heard faint footsteps. You still haven't slept, I thought that you were asleep. Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji walked in and said while looking at Yihua who was lying on the bed. I was waiting for you too, how is the arrangement? It is all arranged properly. Your son is already married, yet you are not helping him, you are spoiling him. Dong Huangbaiji said petulantly. You are really lazy to the extreme. Yihua said in disdain, do you still need me to do this kind of thing? Then why would I marry a wife? Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji immediately became speechless, and they rolled their eyes. After washing up, the two leaned on Yihua's side and enjoyed the moment of peace. Tomorrow is really a big day. Yihua muttered. Yeah. Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji were already very tired, and very quickly, they started breathing evenly. However, Yihua still couldn't fall asleep. Dawn dispelled the darkness, and Voidless Empire welcomed a brand new day. Towards the joyous occasion of the royal family, the citizens were all especially serious. Every single household had come out early to prepare, making it seem as if their sons were getting married. Inside the palace, everyone was also preparing. Honey, look at my collar. It doesn't seem to be symmetrical. Yi Hong frowned and pulled at her collar. Today, Zi Shan was exceptionally beautiful as well. However, right now, she wasn't that domineering anymore. If not, this husband of hers might go and risk his life in a fit of anger. Alright, there's something wrong with your eyes. Zi Shan tidied up Yi Hong's collar and said with a gentle smile. Yi Hong smiled foolishly, then hugged Zi Shan and kissed her. If it was in the past, Zi Shan would have definitely taught Yi Hong a lesson for kissing her without her consent. But right now, Zi Shan was completely acting like a little girl, and she was even shy. This made Yi Hong very happy. This was the rhythm. Hubby, come and take a look at me. In another palace, Li Hun shouted with a sweet voice. When Do Fusher heard this coquettish tone, his scalp went numb. Your husband has already gone offline. Hubby, if you continue to be like this, your wife is going to show off her might. Mom, I'm here. Right now, Wei Chang was also looking at his own clothes. Xiao Tang, is it tidy? Tang Wei laughed tenderly. Uncle Wei, you're very handsome. You really know how to talk. Today is a big day, you cannot be careless. Got it, I will take note. Alright, let's go out, it's almost time. In Lai Gu's palace, Lai Gu shouted out anxiously, you women, when are you going to stop dressing up? Aren't we dressing up to give you face? Yuhua rolled her eyes at Lai Gu. This idiot. Lai Gu held onto his forehead, are you all trying to snatch the limelight from the bride? Ah. Hearing that, the four women felt that what Lai Gu said made sense. Why aren't you quickly going to take a shower? You are truly a prodigal woman. Right after Lai Gu finished speaking, he felt four murderous intents coming towards him. These women, I really cannot afford to offend them. Today, Death Mage finally took off his black cloak and wore a set of clothes on the bed. However, it seemed a bit strange. GGG, Sun Fang couldn't help but say, darling, don't be a jijia anymore. Today, go and look for his honor and ask his honor to bestow you with your vocal cords. GGG. Imperial translation, you go. Right now, the entire group was in a harmonious mood, even Yihua's side was the same. Yihua, hurry up and put on your clothes, don't be late. Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji had already put on their clothes, but Yihua was still putting on his clothes unhurriedly. Yihua laughed lightly, you two go and do your things first, I will come over immediately. Hurry up then, don't joke around. Qingye couldn't help but remind. This fellow has been acting a bit like a child recently. Understood. After Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji left, Yihua took out a cigarette and lit it up, then started smoking silently. After finishing smoking the cigarette, Yihua took down the gorgeous golden emperor robe from the clothes rack. Looking at this golden and dazzling robe, Yihua felt that he didn't like it that much anymore. After wearing it for a day, I should wear it less in the future, it is too extravagant. After fastening the belt and hanging the accessories, Yihua looked at himself in the mirror. I am still so handsome. However, just when he was about to step out of the room, Yihua's expression tightened. The thing that I don't want to see the most still happened. It even happened at a time like this. Back then, Yihua gave Su Diao a piece of broken jade and told him to look for him if he had any problems. I didn't expect that I would use it now. Right now, Yihua was struggling. Should I ignore, or, Yutong, go and take a look at your brother-in-law, why isn't he here yet? Qingya was a bit anxious as she said to her little sister. Alright, I will go and take a look. Qing Yutong hurriedly came to the bedroom and opened the door to take a look. There wasn't a single person in the bedroom, and there was only a faint smell of cigarette. Where is he? It can't be that he is already over, brother-in-law is really. Qing Yutong said helplessly, then hurriedly went back and told Qingya that brother-in-law wasn't in the room. Qingya, who knew of the situation, held on to her forehead. This Yihua, if you were to create any trouble for me today, see if I don't kill you. Where is Yihua right now? This place should be the center of the entire northern region, because it was said to be the North Pole. However, there wasn't any wind or snow here, and the temperature here was actually rather warm. Green trees surrounded this place, and the air was filled with clarity and despair. With a single glance, Yihua saw the 4 guardians, and 2 of them were already hanging down. Yihua tightly wrinkled his brows and walked over, then slowly squatted down and checked Xing Cang's pulse. Chapter 1391. Xing Cang has already sacrificed himself. Ping replied calmly. Yihua took a look at Ping, then turned his head around and looked towards Renyao. Right now, Renyao no longer had any signs of life, and Su Diao was currently in an extremely dangerous situation. What's going on? Yihua asked gravely, then planned to treat Su Diao. But Su Diao refused. No, it's useless. This is our fate. Ping raised her head and looked towards Yihua, and there seemed to be a glimmer of hope on Yihua's face that was filled with despair. I told you before, you are a good person. I am only here to take a look. Yihua said gravely. Speak, what exactly is going on? Perhaps it is because you all are too weak. Yihua said faintly. However, just as Yihua finished speaking, Su Diao's life force seemed to have been sucked dry, and he slowly lowered his head. Ping glanced at Su Diao, his eyes filled with reluctance, but also a kind of relief. I originally thought that the 4 of us could do it without bothering you, but we still can't. You won't believe it, but this is a world-ending calamity. World-ending calamity? Yihua has never heard of such a thing before. This must be something that was made up, right? Conspiracy. Which person that doesn't want to live wants to take my life? Ping nodded. This is also a reincarnation from the beginning to the end, and then a new beginning will begin again. As guardians, we know that we can't go against the natural order, but we still can't bear to do so. However, all of this is futile. It's you all who are too weak. Yihua said once more. That's right, we are too weak, Yihua. You are the only one who can protect these countless worlds. We have already tried our best. Ping looked at Yihua fixedly, waiting for Yihua's answer. Yihua looked at Ping and frowned. After a long time, Yihua stretched out his hand and lightly stroked Ping's eyes. Standing up, Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and looked at the 4 people in front of him. The surrounding environment was undergoing a huge change. The warm wind turned into a bone-chilling wind, and everything instantly turned into a vast expanse of whiteness. The four of them were instantly frozen into ice sculptures. Right now, Yihua was finally able to feel an indescribable aura. This aura wasn't directed at him, but rather, it was directed at the ground beneath his feet, as if it wanted to tear this world apart. This reminded Yihua of Yi's plane. Back then, Yi's plane had also disintegrated like this. It was easy to destroy it, but it was hard to protect it. Sensing the might that was coming from the heavens law, Yihua had no choice but to get serious. This doesn't seem to be a joke. What AF * king bullshit. Today was the children's wedding day. Can't we just have a day off? Should it be tomorrow? This powerful aura could not be sensed by ordinary people at all. It was as if the heavens were benevolent, allowing them to die instantly without any pain. In the Voidless Empire, Yi Yen and God Yu were preparing to pick up the bride. The two brothers were very happy. Even the cold God Yu was the same at that moment. Mom, where's Dad? Why isn't he here yet? Yi Yen couldn't help but ask. The auspicious hour was about to arrive, so why wasn't he here yet? Qingye said petulantly, I don't know where your dad went, I really have a headache holding on to him. Dong Wangli, who was at the side, said in a low voice, let me go and look for him, father might be reluctant to part with him. Sister, I'm not marrying you. Why would I be reluctant? Yi Yen teased, which was immediately met with a death stare. Dong Wang Baiji said with melancholy, Ali, go and call Uncle Wei over to help us look for Yi Futian. This is such an important moment, yet you are still causing trouble, this is truly infuriating. Mom, maybe it's not what you think. Dad is doing something serious. Clearly, Qingye and the others didn't believe that Yihua would go and do something serious. After Dong Huangli went out to look for Yi Futian, everyone waited for quite a while. In the end, Qingye took a look at the time, forget it, let's not wait anymore. The auspicious hour is already here, let's not delay anymore. You all, prepare yourselves and go pick up the bride. Mom will go and look for Yi Futian first. Alright Mom, don't quarrel with Dad, calm down. Yi Yen naturally had to remind them. No matter what, they can't quarrel with each other today. Looking at the children who went out to pick up the bride, Qingye and the others immediately organized people to go and look for Yihua. 1 hour later. Xiao Tian, you still haven't found Yi Futian? Qian Yuqing asked anxiously. Yi Juetian shook his head, big brother doesn't seem to be in the palace. At this moment, a few more figures descended from the sky. They were Wei Chang and Lai Gu, and the two of them had a grave expression on their faces. What's wrong? You still haven't found Yi Futian? Qin Yutong was very anxious, and even her tone became rushed. Honorable Madam, please calm down, give us a bit more time. Wei Chang said respectfully. This time, his honor actually concealed his aura, completely unable to sense his honor's aura. This is something that has never happened before. Another 10+ figures descended from the sky, and Pig Liver Mane said gravely, Honorable Madam, his honor doesn't seem to be in the empire. How is that possible? Just now, I even told him to hurry up and dress up. Dong Huang Baiji wrinkled her brows in puzzlement. Even if Yihua likes to throw a tantrum, he wouldn't joke around with the marriage of the children. Could it be that his honor is in danger? Brett said respectfully, Honorable Madam, his honor's strength is outstanding, nothing will definitely happen to him. This scoundrel. Just what is he trying to do? Qingye was very angry. If Yihua was right in front of me right now, I would definitely bite him to death and go missing today. I am obviously doing something important, why are you nagging me so much? Just as everyone was hesitating, Yihua's voice rang out in everyone's mind. The voice carried a tone of teasing and relaxation. When Qingye and the others heard Yihua's voice, they finally felt at ease. You scoundrel, the children are already married, where the hell did you go? Hurry up and come back. Dong Huang Baiji immediately scolded out. If I don't scold you for a day, are you going to feel unnatural all over? However, when Wei Chang heard his honor's tone, he felt that something was amiss. His honor's tone rarely carries a tone of teasing or laughter. Baiji, actually, I like it the most when you are angry, you are especially cute. As expected, when Wei Chang said this, everyone felt that something was a bit strange. They didn't know what his honor was doing. I have some matters to take care of today, I might not be able to come back. Yihua said once again. Just like an ordinary phone call, Yihua told his wife that he was going out for a drink tonight and wouldn't be coming back. Today is the children's big day. How can you not come back? Qinya couldn't help but question Yihua, and her eyes were already red. Yihua's voice paused for quite a while, then said slowly, Qinya, I'm afraid that I won't be able to participate in the wedding, I will be leaving for a period of time. Just what are you doing? Qinya's emotions immediately collapsed as she roared towards the sky. Yihua didn't reply, instead, he shouted out faintly, Wei Chang. Subordinate is here. During the period of time that I am not here, properly assist Ali, Your Honor, subordinate. Your Honor, just what are you doing? If it was in the past, Wei Chang would definitely obey his honor straightforwardly. However, right now, he wasn't able to do it. Did you hear me clearly? Subordinate understands. Chapter 1392. Qian Yuqing's lips slightly trembled as she said in a low voice, Yihua, stop messing around, this is not fun. Qian Yuqing had already lost Yihua once, and that kind of heartache was enough to make one want to die. Qian Yuqing was completely unable to endure it a second time. Yihua didn't explain too much. As usual, he didn't like explaining things. Back then, I took pleasure in killing people, and in the end, what a great irony. I'm sorry, my family, mother, your son is going to be unfilial again. After finished speaking, Yihua's voice disappeared. No matter what, there was no reply. Of course, Lu Jing heard it. She had already fainted. Daji also heard it. She was not in a hurry to be sad. She cried while taking care of Lu Jing. Qinya and the others were already stupefied, and all of Qinya's subordinates were also stupefied. If they didn't know what Qinya meant before, then the last sentence that Qinya said couldn't be any more obvious. Mommy, I can't find Daddy at all. At this moment, Dong Huangli and Yilu ran over anxiously and said in distress. The children clearly didn't hear the conversation just now, and this was also done on purpose by Yihua. I feel that I am letting down the children too much. After being thrown out for more than 10 years, and just a few months after coming back, I am going to have to leave again. No one responded to Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli and Yilu saw that everyone's expressions were a bit strange, and even Dong Huangli's mother's expression was a bit distorted. A bad premonition rose in the hearts of the two children. Go look for it. Go look for it. No way. Everything will be fine. Brother-in-law is so awesome, how could something happen to him? Qin Yutong was about to go crazy, and she roared loudly, and her entire person seemed incomparably sinister. Right now, Yihua was able to imagine it, but what could he do about it? Initially, he didn't plan to use the final communication method, but in the end, he still couldn't hold himself back. Taking out a cigarette, Yihua slowly lit it up, and his self-mocking smile could be seen on the corner of his mouth. Perhaps he would be able to survive the destruction of the world, but just like what the fortune teller said, in a world without people, he would have to face endless loneliness. What would be the point of that? This time, I am protecting my family, that's right. Everything else was incidental. I am not a good person, I have never been. I am not a saint. After quite a while, Yihua raised his head and looked at the falling snow in the sky, then laughed lightly. The fine black hair at the back of her head suddenly turned into specks of starlight and floated in the air. Goodbye, my family and friends. Gradually, Yihua's entire body transformed into starlight, and that half of the cigarette was blown far away by the wind and snow. However, that dazzling starlight rushed towards the horizon and dispersed towards the countless plains. Yihua was using all of his strength to contain the world extermination calamity this time around. Although he did not know if it would be effective, this was the only way he could protect the lives of his entire family. At this moment, everyone was able to sense Yihua's aura. Yihua's aura was incomparably enormous, and yet, it was dissipating at a bizarre speed. No! Heart-wrenching screams resounded in the palace. They couldn't believe that everyone's hearts had collapsed just like that. At that moment, Yi Yan and God Yi had already picked up their wives and were on their way back. The two of them sat on the white horse, sharing their experiences and chatting freely. They were talking about how they would be a father in the future. However, just a moment ago, the two of them who still had a joyous look on their faces suddenly felt that their father's aura was very huge. However, in just half a breath's time, his aura was gone. There was no time to think at all. This kind of dissipation was not that kind of concealment, but rather, Yi Yan and God Yi sat on the horse's back in a daze. Brother Yan. Father's aura. Chuyu, who was sitting on the sedan behind, shouted out loudly. This shout instantly pulled Yi Yan back to reality. He immediately flew towards the palace, and God Yi, who was at the side, followed closely behind. The people on both sides of the street were confused. What is going on? Why did the groom run away? Why did he abandon the two brides? Big sister, what's wrong? Yi Yan looked at his big sister, who was sitting on the ground and leaning against the wall. Mom, what's wrong? Uncle Wei. What's going on with everyone? Where's Dad? Yi Yan asked everyone one by one. His face was sometimes tense, and sometimes he would squeeze out a smile. However, everyone's expression was the same. God Yi walked in front of Donghuang Baiji and said gravely, Mom, Dad, Donghuang Baiji looked at God Yi as if she was looking at Yihua. Donghuang Baiji hugged her son tightly and cried out loudly. All of the women in the group were unable to accept this kind of ending and cried bitterly. In their hearts, Yihua was not only the boss, he was also the matchmaker, and also the big brother. He was always taking care of them. Yet, right now, he left just like that. How could they accept this? In the end, Wei Chong was a person that was entrusted to someone else. Other people can remain calm in their sorrow, but I can't. At the very least, I have to suppress my sorrow and organize everything properly. Madam, this matter still needs to be investigated. His honor has an undying body, there won't be any accidents. Wei Chong concluded that it wouldn't be that easy for his honor to leave. It must be said that Wei Chang's consolation was effective. In everyone's hearts, Yihua was an invincible person, and right now, they still cannot come to a conclusion. Investigate, we must definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. If he's alive, we must see him. Qinya slowly stood up, and her gaze became firm. Yihua won't die just like this, he still owes me too much, and I won't be able to repay him in this lifetime. Yes. Madam. Wei Chong turned his head around and looked at everyone, right now, his honor's whereabouts are unknown, I hope that everyone will do your best to find his honor's whereabouts. Everyone's hearts gradually became firm as well. His honor won't die. Everyone disappeared from the spot and used their own methods to find his honor's whereabouts. Madam, if there's any news, I will immediately inform you. Wei Chong cupped his hands, then took a look at the children, then disappeared from the spot as well. Yi Yan powerlessly leaned against the wall. It was clearly my big day, but why is my father gone? Why is it like this? Brother Yen. God Yi, the two brides finally arrived. Sensing the dense sorrowful atmosphere, and adding on the aura that had disappeared from the scene earlier, Chuyu and Lu Xian were able to guess what happened. Chuyu walked to the front of Yi Yan, then lightly hugged onto Yi Yan and comforted him. However, Yi Yan couldn't take it anymore and started crying like a child. Mom, I will definitely find Dad and bring him back. Definitely. Dong Huangli said gravely. Although she didn't know how to find Dad, it was still better than sitting here foolishly. Big sister, I will go with you. Yi Lu's eyes were red, she didn't believe that her father would disappear just like this. Big sister, I will go with you. I will go as well. Yi Yan and God Yi naturally had to go as well. Even if they had to search for Dad for a few years, tens of years, or even hundreds of years, they still had to find Dad. You two stay at home and accompany Mom, we will go and look for Dad. Right now, Uncle Wei and the others have all gone out to look for Dad, the defense has weakened. Dong Huangli said gravely. Although Dong Huangli wasn't afraid, she still had to pay attention to those people who wanted to cause trouble. Chapter 1393. Yi Yan had already adjusted his state of mind, then said to Dong Huangli, Big sister, before, Dad said that he was going to pass the throne to you. Right now, you have to stay in the Imperial Palace and accompany Mom. As for the matter of finding Dad, just leave it to the three of us, you can be at ease. We must find Father and bring him back. Sister, you should stay in the palace. God Yi said in a deep voice, then looked at his mother. They were no longer in the mood to manage the affairs of the palace. Dong Huangli took a look at her mother. Although I really want to go to the Imperial Palace cannot be left unattended. Chuyu, help big sister well. Xian you too. Chuyu and Lu Xian were also very sensible. They said that they could rest assured and go do their work. They were here for the family. It was fortunate for him to have a sensible wife. Mom, we'll definitely bring Dad back, Yi Yan said firmly to his mother. Qinya slowly raised her head and looked at her son, Yan, your father will be fine. Yes, Dad is so powerful, he will definitely be fine. He will be back tomorrow. Yi Yan and the others firmly believed that their father was somewhere right now. After the three children left, there were only a few women left. Right now, Qian Yuqing was currently on the verge of collapsing. Back then, Yi Hua was also like this. He disappeared just like that, and he didn't give you any time to prepare your thoughts at all. She didn't expect that it would happen again. Which woman could suffer such a blow twice in a row? It was already impossible for the wedding to continue. Dong Huangli had to comfort her mother, and as for the other miscellaneous matters, she had to let Chuyu and Lu Xian handle them. It was a strange feeling to cancel one's own wedding. However, the two girls had no experience in management, so of course they were unfamiliar with it. All the people who came to attend the wedding felt strange. Why did the bride cancel her own wedding? It seemed like something big must have happened in Voidless Empire. Otherwise, things wouldn't have turned out this way. That was what they thought, but no one dared to act rashly. They could only go home with their doubts. Long Outyen and Lord Jiao had already brought their families over to Voidless Empire. As for Qi Shuwin's death, it was also the result of his own actions. If he had been less jealous, this might not have happened. Look at how well-behaved Ba was, staying in his own territory and not coming out. This was the highest realm of wretched development. Along with Yi Hua's disappearance, the entire imperial palace became lifeless. However, the outside world had no idea what was going on, and the people within Voidless Empire were still living their lives as usual. The world would not stop because of the death of a person. In the blink of an eye, it was Chinese New Year's Eve. In the past, Yihua had always been the one to host the event. But this time, all of the members of the group were present, and the only one who was missing was his honor. Was the banquet hall lively? No. The air was filled with sorrow. After a period of investigation, there was no news of his subordinates. Yihua could only guess that this matter was related to the Guardian. Furthermore, when the Guardian came to look for his honor must have definitely made a move. As for why there was no news of his honor, Yihua had no idea. His honor had become a mystery. However, in the hearts of the subordinates, his honor is a godlike existence, and he will not die. Perhaps, his honor is recuperating somewhere, and thus, he isn't able to appear in front of me. When his honor recovers from his injuries, his honor will appear in front of me. During these few months, Dong Guangli was the one who was in charge of the overall situation. Qinya and the others were in a daze every single day. If it wasn't for the determination in their hearts, they would have definitely gone crazy. At this moment, he could understand how Qian Yuqing felt at that time. The feeling of losing the love of one's life was not a good one. In his heart, he felt incomparably guilty. Those years, he was in a cold war with Yihua and ignored him. Now, even though he wanted to talk to Yihua was no longer around. As the saying goes, only when people are no longer around will we know how to cherish them. At this moment, Dong Guangli stood up and raised her wine cup. All of Dong Guangli's subordinates stood up and raised their wine cups. Everyone, you have worked hard during this period of time. Cheers! Dong Guangli had matured a lot. Without Yihua's existence, Dong Guangli seemed to have become an adult. Dong Guangli seemed to have become more mature, and the feeling of immaturity had disappeared. Dong Guangli did not disappoint Yihua. She managed Wushu Empire in an orderly manner, and of course, Chuyu and Lu Xian's help was also part of this. It isn't hard to serve his honor. Dong Guangli's subordinates had discussed with Dong Guangli. After this year is over, they will go to another plane to look for his honor. This was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. After all, there were countless planes, and it wasn't possible to find his honor in an instant. However, Dong Guangli's subordinates did not give up. Dong Guangli let out a sigh of relief, then waved her hand, and an image could be seen appearing on the screen behind her. Yi Hong and Zi Shan went into a slight daze. This is the scene of our wedding, and it is even being hosted by his honor. Everyone was able to see his honor's figure on the screen, and right now, everyone can only see his honor's figure on the screen. Thinking about the past, everyone felt uncomfortable in their hearts, and they really wanted to vent out their emotions. Looking at the women, tears had already appeared in their eyes. Qinya and the others were already sobbing uncontrollably. During last year's New Year, I was still together with Yihua, just that, it wasn't very pleasant. Whenever I think about it, I would hate myself for treating Yihua like that. Now, Yihua is gone. Yihua, are you taking revenge on me? Listening to Yihua's cold yet passionate voice, everyone felt as if they could see his honor standing on his seat, raising his wine cup, looking at everyone with a gentle gaze, and then praising a certain person. Just how glorious is that? As the screen changed, it was basically all scenes of his honor's subordinates being together. His honor started singing. Although his honor was tone-deaf, the subordinates were still cheering for him. Looking at this scene, all of the subordinates revealed a smile on their faces. However, this smile was filled with tears. In actuality, his honor is still a joker. Perhaps, only during this time of the year would his honor put down his arrogance and play around with his subordinates. After all, as the boss, he mustn't appear to be frivolous all the time. Yi Yan looked at his father's figure, and tears couldn't help but flow down from his eyes. It was said that men shed blood, but not tears. However, at this very moment, Yi Yan was unable to do so. Even if it was God Yi, he was unable to do so. However, it was precisely because of this that Yi Yan wanted to find his honor even more, to let this big family reunite. Without Yi Hua, this was an incomplete family. On the first day of Chinese New Year, the entire group of people spread out to search for his honor. This sort of search continued for year after year. However, everyone still didn't give up. 100 years passed by just like that, and there was still no news of his honor at all. There wasn't even a single person who looked similar to his honor. Yi Hua had disappeared for 1,000 years. Wushu Empire had already covered the entire northern region, and the scale of the empire was already hard to believe. However, all of this was because of Dong Huangli. In Dong Huangli's heart, if her father were to see this, he would definitely be proud of me and praise me. Big sister, what are you thinking about that made you so happy? Yi Yan asked with a light smile on his face. Right now, Yi Yan was already more than 1,000 years old, and he could be counted as an old man. Chapter 1394. However, today was another Lunar New Year's Eve. Based on previous year's custom, everyone would rush back for a reunion. Time could make people slowly calm down, but the subordinates still did not give up on searching for his honor. Even if they had to search for more than 10,000 years, they still had to find traces of his honor. However, right now was not the time for them to be sad. If they have the time to be sad, they might as well think about how to find his honor. Right now, Dong Huangli was wearing an empress gown, and she had the demeanor of Dong Huang Baiji. As expected of an empress's daughter, Dong Huangli was born to be an empress. Dong Huangli turned her head around and looked towards her little brother, then said with a smile, "I was thinking about how father will praise me when he returns." "You should be praising me," Yi Yan said with a teasing tone. Although the siblings were teasing, their tone was still very unnatural. Dong Huangli laughed lightly, "You don't have to go out and look for Chuyu this year. You should properly accompany Chuyu. Chuyu has just given birth to a child, and she needs you to accompany her. For so many years, you have spent too little time accompanying her. Chuyu can understand me." Yi Yan stopped smiling and said plainly. "Which daughter doesn't wish to be accompanied by a man? Not to mention, the child has already been born. No matter what, he has to accompany the child for at least a month. It has been tough on him to manage such a huge voidless empire with me all these years." Without waiting for Yi Yan to speak, Dong Huangli spoke once again, "I promise Chuyu that I will let you stay at home for at least a month." "It's decided. It's the same for that kid, God Yi," Dong Huangli said in a low voice. Although it was very tiring for her to manage Wushu Empire, it was even more tiring for them to search for Wushu Empire outside. Yi Yan didn't say anything. Actually, he felt a little guilty. Back then, he didn't even get married before he went out to search for his father. He searched for so many years. Occasionally, he would come back to accompany his wife for a day before continuing his search. Basically, everyone was like that. Yi Yan looked up at the sky. It was already getting dark. "Mom isn't back yet?" Yi Yan asked in a low voice. That's right, Qingye and the others were also using their own methods to look for Yi Hua. Qingye and the others had been away for close to 100 years, and the only time they could gather together was during Lu Jing's birthday and Chinese New Year's Eve. Of course, the four of them didn't search for Yi Hua together. After all, the four of them and Yi Hua had their own feelings for each other, and they naturally had their own ways to search for Yi Hua. "I don't know. If it was in the past, mother should have already returned," Dong Huangli said in a low voice. Dong Guangli felt that it was a bit strange. Sister, Brother Yen. Just as the two of them were talking, Chuyu slowly walked over with her child in her arms. Perhaps the birth of a new life added a hint of joy to this gloomy atmosphere. The little boy in her arms was sleeping soundly, but his eyebrows were very much like Yi Yan's. After 1,000 years, Chuyu had become even more mature, and adding on the fact that she was managing such a big empire, her temperament had also become more dignified. Chuyu really resembles Yi back then. No, it should be Meng Yao. Why are you here? Yi Yan looked at his wife walking over and smiled. Looking at his son in his arms, his heart was filled with joy. If his father was here, he would be a grandfather now. It was highly possible that he would bring his grandson to act cool. Everything is more or less ready, and the time is about to arrive as well. Only mother is not back yet. The mother that Chuyu was referring to was naturally Yi Yan's mother, Qingya. Only mom didn't come back. Yi Yan asked doubtfully. Could something have happened to her? Chuyu nodded. Baiji's mother said that she might be late. She seems to be very busy. Really? Yi Yan took a look at his big sister. Perhaps mother doesn't want to be disappointed. Every Chinese New Year's Eve, everyone would reminisce about father together. Brother Yen, how about you go and take a look at mother? Chuyu suggested. Yi Yan shook his head. It's useless, mother might have her own thoughts. If I go, it would only make mother miss father even more. Although Chuyu was his daughter-in-law, she didn't spend much time with her father. Naturally, their relationship wasn't that deep. I feel that after so many years, everyone seemed to still be living in the past. Reminiscing is naturally a good thing, but life still has to continue. In actuality, everyone understood in their hearts that father already, but father just doesn't want to admit this fact. Chuyu understood in her heart, and she also admired father a lot. After so many years have passed, everyone still hasn't given up on searching for father. This kind of willpower isn't something that ordinary people can have. Let's go to the banquet hall, it's about time. Dong Guangli looked at the sky and said softly. Inside the banquet hall, the people who were sitting inside were naturally all Dong Guangli's subordinates. Without Yi Hua around, there wasn't a lot of laughter. Lai Gu didn't cause any trouble anymore. Dou Fusha also stopped being a clown and became more mature. Everyone seemed to have grown up and were able to take charge of their own matters. Yutong, how is it this year? Dong Huang Baiji asked tenderly, and the smile on her face was a bit forced. According to the situation in the past, Qing Yutong would always be very carefree, but the current Qing Yutong didn't seem to be that childish anymore. It's alright, just that I didn't gain anything. Qian Yuqing said softly, are we heading in the wrong direction? Perhaps it's just a matter of time. Why isn't Qingya here yet? She just told me that she's still busy, and I have no idea what she's busy with. Dong Huang Baiji said softly. Is there anything more important than right now? Perhaps big sister found some clues. Qing Yutong said faintly. Qian Yuqing held onto the teacup and slowly rotated it, then said softly, big sister Qingya opened a bar, perhaps, she's waiting for Yi Hua, just like back then. But, she has already waited for 100 years. Qing Yutong felt that this method of her big sister's wouldn't work. This is basically waiting for a fish to take the bait. Dong Huang Baiji laughed lightly, perhaps, she might have won the lottery, that's for sure. Everyone laughed lightly. This kind of probability might be even harder than winning 5 million. On a certain plane. In a desolate alley, there was a bar that wasn't big. The bar had 2 storefronts and 2 storefronts, and there was a second floor. Let's just call the bar Qing. Although it was inside a small alley, there was a very long line of people outside. Taking a look, all of them were men. I wonder if I will be able to see the lady boss today. If I am able to see her, I would even be willing to die. Within the line, a young man said with yearning. That's right, the lady boss is simply too beautiful. Last time, my friend secretly took a photo of the lady boss, and right now, the entire bar is filled with the lady boss's photo. Who knows what the lady boss is doing at night? This is simply profaning our lady boss. If I am able to become the boss of this bar, I would simply be able to turn the heavens upside down. If it's me, I have even thought of the name of my child. The group of men immediately looked towards that man, and the latter's face sunk. The latter consciously held onto his head and squatted down, welcoming the baptism of fists. I'll let you know what is called the sin of profaning. This kind of situation was already very common. Many of the people who came here for the first time were very curious, just what kind of woman is she, to actually be able to have such power. However, all of them knew that if one came here to travel, this bar was a must-visit place. It could even be said to be a tourist attraction. However, inside the bar, there was a group of men, and all of their gazes were placed on the staircase. It was as if that clear and majestic voice was ringing beside their ears. Of course, it was the sound that came from high heels. However, luck was also needed. If one's luck was good, they would be able to see it. Maybe, those men who were sitting at the bar were lucky, and the sound of high heels really rang out. In the ears of the men, the sound was simply like the sound of nature. A pair of spotlessly white high heels could be seen appearing in front of everyone's eyes. All of the men held their breath. The lady boss has appeared. Today's luck is too good, she finally came down. Dressed in a plain white dress, it seemed so aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Her black hair hung down very naturally, forming a sharp contrast with the white dress. When that face appeared in front of everyone's eyes, all of the men's eyeballs were about to pop out. They completely didn't know how to describe it. It was simply as if she had turned on a beauty filter. No. This kind of saying is simply profaning the lady boss. This lady boss only exists in the sky, and she descended to the mortal world to experience life. Some of the outsiders, seeing the lady boss for the first time, were simply dumbstruck, and greed appeared in their eyes. Only this kind of woman is interesting. This lady boss was naturally Chinya. At this time, it was about time for the bar to close. There was still a gathering at home. Chinya swept a glance at the men that were present. Her gaze was very calm. She was already used to this kind of gaze. However, before Chinya announced the bar to close, a man who was drunk stood up. Humph. Woman, you name your price. Chinya looked at this man and didn't have any reaction. This kind of thing, as long as I go down the stairs, it will basically happen. Seeing that Chinya didn't speak, the man directly threw his car key on the table. Follow me. This phantom is yours. There is also a 200 square meter Riverview room. Your life in the future will be enjoyment. No. Chinya said faintly. When the man heard this kind of reply, he was a bit surprised. What? Did I give you too little? No, you are too ugly. Following Chinya's words, everyone burst into laughter. Although this nouveau riche wasn't handsome, at least his facial features were still considered neat. I'm telling you. You better be tactful, if not, I will make sure that this bar of yours cannot be opened anymore. The man's arrogant words caused the surrounding people to start whispering to each other. Sigh, another one who is seeking death. That's right, I have already seen it quite a few times. Every time it was extremely awesome, but I still haven't seen this bar close down. This lady boss isn't simple. That's right. Chinya didn't want to pay attention to this nouveau riche and said faintly, Dear customers, this bar is going to close for today. Although he was a bit disappointed, seeing the lady boss appear, it was also worth it. I am not leaving. What can you do to me? A few black-clothed burly men immediately walked out from the surrounding area and directly carried the man up. Afterward, screams rang out from outside. Seems like the fall wasn't light. Chinya looked at the crowd leaving, then went to the bar counter and poured a cup of wine by herself. Her gaze was a bit blurry. In actuality, she was a bit blurry from the start, as if she was drunk. Because Chinya found a unique formula, when she was drunk, she would be able to see Yihua. If it was possible, Chinya wanted to be drunk every day. That way, she would be able to lie in Yihua's embrace every day, listen to his heartbeat, and look at that poker face. Although there wasn't any expression, she just liked it. Not knowing how long had passed, all the wine bottles were emptied. Suddenly, the waiter's voice rang out. "Mister, this bar is already closed." However, the other party didn't seem to reply, and heavy footsteps rang out from the door. This kind of footsteps made Chinya's eyebrows tighten. Slowly raising her head to look, a figure appeared in Chinya's line of sight. As the figure gradually got closer, Chinya's gaze revealed all kinds of emotions. The man sat on the high chair and said faintly, "Do you have wine?" "I have a lot of wine here, what kind do you want?" Chinya asked faintly. "The kind that can die." "What a coincidence, I indeed have this kind of wine here, it's called death." The man went into a daze for a moment. Looking at Chinya's face, he felt that it was very familiar and said faintly, "Give me a cup." "All right." The man took the wine that Chinya prepared and drank it in one gulp. In an instant, he felt as if his soul had left his body. That kind of feeling was as if he had obtained liberation. After a long time, the man woke up. "You drugged me." Chinya suddenly laughed tenderly. "If I drugged you, you would have already been carried onto the bed by me. You are different from other women." The man stared at Chinya and said gravely, "Naturally, looking at you, there seems to be a story." "Just nice, I have wine here." Chinya laughed tenderly. This caused the surrounding waiters to be very astonished. Why would the lady boss talk to a man? But this man, he is really tasteful, so handsome, my God. I have never seen such a handsome man before. Seeing that Yihua didn't speak, Chinya persuaded, "Only by pouring your heart out will it be useful." After finished speaking, she thought in her heart, "Didn't you also talk to me like this back then?" "Lady boss, we will be going back first." The waiters at the side said respectfully. Chinya nodded her head, then looked towards the man. "Now that there is no one else, you can speak now." "Wait, let me guess first, looking at your dressing, you are definitely born in a rich family. For you to seek death in the middle of the night, it is definitely not because of money. If this man did not do it because of money, then it must be because of a woman. I reckon that it must be a marriage between rich families, right?" After hearing that, the man stared fixedly at Chinya and said coldly, "You investigated me." "I have no interest in investigating you, we are all adults, you know what I want, I know what you want too, go upstairs." Chinya's words immediately caused the man to be dumbfounded, but he still said slowly, "I heard that the female boss here is very mysterious, but after seeing her today, she is also a person who covets after my appearance." Chinya was immediately speechless. This person needs to have one more attribute, narcissism, incomparably narcissism. "Mister, if you are not willing, the door is over there, just leave." Chinya had a look of not caring. "If you have the ability, just leave, how could I not know what you are thinking?" "Humph. I think I am also a person who likes to keep my chastity, but today, I will indulge myself. I will let you feel honored for once." Chinya rolled her eyes. "Let me feel honored for once, why don't you go and die? I really want to strangle him to death." "You sure talk a lot of nonsense, if you want to come then come." After finished speaking, Chinya walked up to the second floor. The man slowly stood up and followed after Chinya. If one observed carefully, the corner of the man's mouth had a trace of an arc. The longest road that you all have walked is my routine. If you continue to be mischievous, I will just go missing. However, the feeling of coming back is really good. I overslept this time. Chapter 1395. Brothers, nice to meet you. Lulu, 3 horses and 4 pigs. An excited drunken voice rang out from a certain bedroom in the palace. Yi Hong and LV Liang could be seen drinking, and from their expressions, they seemed to be very excited. Little brother, drink. Big brother, drink. LV Liang wiped the corner of his mouth and appeared to be very excited. Triplets, little brother, don't you think that's awesome? Yi Hong gave a thumbs up and said excitedly, sister-in-law is indeed awesome. Isn't that so? After so many years, my big brother Green finally has the guts. LV Liang looked towards the sky and let out a long sigh. Something that I didn't even dare to hope for in the past actually came true. Big brother, congratulations, you are the last one to be born in the entire team. Yi Hong patted on Big Brother's shoulder. During that period of time, Big Brother was really worried. Everyone else has a child, but Big Brother is the only one who isn't pregnant. How can he be at ease? Fortunately, the pill that His Honor concocted is not bad. It is really a good prescription to treat infertility. I feel that it can be sold very well. Along with a creaking sound, the tightly closed door was pushed open. Dad, I knew that you were drinking here. You still aren't going back. Mom is going to beat you to death. A chubby little brat looked at Yi Hong. His expression was very exaggerated, as if he was going to be implicated. How did your mom know that I was drinking here? Yi Hong hurriedly asked. A few years ago, Yi Hong and Zishan had their own child, and Zishan finally fulfilled her wish. Yi Hong was very happy, but Zishan, who had a child, seemed to have become a demon again, and now, she enjoyed torturing the father and son all day long. Look, the chubby child has lost a lot of weight. The little fatty said seriously, Mom said that she will let me off this time after I reported her. I knew that you, this brat, are unreliable. Yi Hong covered her face. This is a scam. Dad, good luck, I am going to play with Yi Xiu. You stinking brat. Don't lead Yi Xiu astray. Otherwise, I will break your legs. The little fatty definitely didn't hear what Yi Hong said. Look at my son, Yi Yan has already looked for me to talk a few times. He is such an outstanding person, in the end. Yi Hong was very vexed. LV Liang laughed loudly. Wasn't it you who said that you wanted to play with outstanding people, and in the end, that child Yi Xiu, ta. This Yi Xiu was not Yi Yan's son, but Yi Yan's grandson. The way Dong Huang Li's subordinates addressed Dong Huang Li had already become Dong Huang Li. Are you drinking? A figure appeared at the door. It was a pig's head and a human's body. I was just worried that the atmosphere wasn't good enough. Come, let's go together. LV Lu's invitation was a warm one. Her subordinates had always been like this. There was no class discrimination and they all respected each other. After all, like boss, like subordinates. The pig liver macaque sighed softly and sat down beside them. What's wrong? Why are you sighing? LV Liang asked curiously and poured a glass of wine for pig liver meat. The pig liver macaque didn't say anything and drank it in one gulp. Then, its gaze became especially firm. The thing I've been plotting for thousands of years is about to be implemented. The pig liver macaque stared at LV Liang and Yi Hong and said with a tone of duty-bound, as if this matter had to be done. Although LV Liang and Yi Hong were a little drunk, they immediately understood what the pig liver macaque wanted to do. My wife is waiting for me to go back and give birth to my second child. Yi Hong muttered, then hurriedly left. That newborn child of mine hasn't changed his diaper yet, I have to go back and change it. LV Liang also hurriedly left. If she didn't leave, she might be captured and used as cannon fodder. The pig liver macaque didn't pay attention to her, its gaze was deep as it muttered, I know that you are not happy, I will bring you far away. Outside. Big brother, why do you think Brother Pig is so obsessed with Dongfang Yu? I really don't understand. Yi Hong rubbed his chin and asked curiously. LV Liang slightly raised his head and looked towards the blue sky. This is the taste of first love, right? Making people unscrupulous. That's true, it has already been thousands of years, but he still wants to kidnap Dongfang Yu, every day, causing absolute Heaven City to strengthen the defense of the palace. Just as the two were chatting, a figure walked towards the two of them. Uncle Wei. The green and red brothers respectfully shouted. N. Wei Chang nodded his head, then quickly walked past, as if he had something urgent to do. Yi Hong mumbled, what is Uncle Wei in such a hurry to go? LV Liang said sneakily, I heard that Wei Ling caused trouble outside last night and got kidnapped by Kai Yun. It can't be, Wei Ling caused trouble outside again. Doesn't that mean that this Uncle Wei has a daughter at such an old age, and he dotes on her very much? On the other hand, Tang Wei seems to be very strict. The two men started gossiping about the interesting things that happened in the team. It's fortunate that my family's little fatty came out a few years later than me. If my family's age was the same, I would be able to play together with my family's little fatty. My God, just thinking about it is scary. Yi Hong felt that her family's little fatty was rather obedient. However, Wei Ling is still together with Yi Xian after causing so much trouble. LV Liang laughed lightly. Yi Xian was God Ye's granddaughter, and her age was similar to Wei Ling's. Of course, their interests were the same, and so they simply hit it off. Adding on that, Wushu Empire covered the entire north, who knows where Yi Xian went to play. The two chatted as they walked, and very soon, they arrived at the entrance of the bedroom. The green and red brothers' bedroom was right across from the bedroom, and they could be considered as neighbors. Just now, they were also secretly drinking wine and running into the empty bedroom to avoid being discovered by their wives. It has already been many years since His Honor had any activities, I wonder when His Honor is going to cause trouble outside. LV Liang muttered. Seems like His Honor is a bit bored. If His Honor was here, he would have caused trouble long ago. Yi Hong said helplessly. His Honor and his wives are all gone. Even if they are going on their honeymoon, they should be back by now, right? That is hard to say. Back then, your wives had been looking for His Honor for so long, and now that they finally found each other, they are definitely going to be very loving. But I feel that it is definitely a trap. His Honor has too many traps, and even Uncle Wei said that His Honor did it on purpose. When it comes to picking up girls, we are not as arrogant as His Honor. That's right. Sigh, the green and red brothers let out a sigh at the same time. Let's just go home and be henpecked. However, just as the two were about to close the door, their expressions tensed up. This is a call from His Honor, and it is a meeting of all the members, everyone must be present. Could it be that something happened? Following Dong Huang Li's announcement, everyone rushed towards the Imperial Palace Hall. At this moment, other than Yi Hua and the four wives, everyone else was present, and there were even a lot of young faces among them. This was the fresh blood in the team, and this was also the situation that Yi Hua wanted to see. Yi Hua wanted the entire team to be passed down from generation to generation. Dong Huang Li stood beside the throne. After experiencing the baptism of time, the current Dong Huang Li felt that she was even stricter than her mother. It isn't easy for me to sit in this position. After all, I am the boss, and the boss has to have the dignity of a boss. Dong Huangli was able to experience her father's acting skills. Big sister, what happened? Did something happen? Did Dad and Mom fall out again? Yi Yan cried out in surprise. Li Gu, who was at the side, patted onto Yi Yan's shoulder. It is impossible for them to fall out. I reckon that it is possible for them to give you a younger brother or sister. Following what Li Gu said, all of Yi Yan's subordinates laughed lightly. Honestly speaking, it is indeed possible. Alright, everyone, quiet down for a bit. Dad just sent news over, and it is very important news. I hope that everyone will treat it seriously. Dong Huangli said gravely. Towards a serious topic, everyone would treat it seriously, unless they really couldn't hold back their laughter. Your Honor, please speak, we will be willing to sacrifice our lives for you. Wei Chang shouted out respectfully. Right now, he really knows how to speak. Dong Huangli said gravely, last time, Dad saved all of the planes and ended up in a coma for 1,000 years. Before Dong Huangli could finish speaking, Yi Yan muttered, I did it to save my family, the others were just doing it on the side. Ha 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 ha, although Yi Yan had received professional training, he still couldn't help but laugh out loud. This joke can be said for an entire lifetime, and even Dong Huangli couldn't help but laugh out loud. Yi Yan. You shut up. Dong Huangli glared at her brother. What are you fooling around for? Your son is still here. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Yi Yan didn't speak anymore. There are simply too many jokes about Dad, and it is impossible for me to finish talking about them in a short amount of time. Dad said that although he saved all of the planes and avoided reincarnation, but... Dong Huangli paused for a moment, then swept her gaze across everyone. The atmosphere became a bit stiff. However, a new cycle has begun. Zhu Tian's brows wrinkled as he said gravely, Your Honor, although old His Honor stopped the cycle of reincarnation, he didn't stop the other starting point from starting, right? That's right. We have millions of worlds here, and there are also worlds over there. Judging from Dad's tone, it might be a higher-level world. Do Fusher, what do you think? Do Fusher's mouth twitched. He wouldn't be able to avoid this for the rest of his life. This had already become a tradition. Your Honor, I feel that this is just like a program upgrade. What we have here is the ordinary version, and after going through trial and error, we developed a more perfect version. Do Fusher was about to admire himself. He could even make up nonsense to be so awesome. Drifting Soul, who was at the side, had a look of worship on his face. His words were as if they were the truth. Dong Huangli nodded her head, that's about it. Damn, I actually got it right. Yi Zizi asked lightly, Your Honor, then what does Your Honor mean by that? Dong Huangli's gaze turned cold, then said in a low voice, What Daddy means is, as long as there is one, it will be fine. F***ck me. Hearing what His Honor said, everyone's blood seemed to have started boiling. His Honor is indeed formidable. Even though he isn't here, he is still able to act so pretentiously. However, before that, we need to have a complete set of information. After all, this is the first time that I, the Supreme Overlord, am leading a team. Dong Huangli attached great importance to this mission. This mission was very arduous, but it was also very challenging. Yes. Subordinate will definitely do my best to cooperate with Your Honor and strive to complete this mission as soon as possible. Everyone, disperse. Yes. After everyone left, Dong Huangli let out a breath. If it was possible, I really don't want to sit on this seat. Sis, what's wrong? Seeing that Yi Lu was walking very slowly, Dong Huangli asked curiously. Yi Lu turned her head around and looked at her big sister with a slightly embarrassed look on her face. It can't be, you found a boyfriend. Dong Guangli cried out in surprise, then walked to the front of Yi Lu. Dong Guangli was so excited that it seemed as if she had found a boyfriend. Big sister, it's nothing, I just have a bit of a favorable impression of him, that's all. Yi Lu slightly lowered her head, revealing the appearance of a little girl. With a single look, Dong Guangli knew that her little sister had already fallen for Yi Lu. Where is that person from? Let big sister help you check on him. Big sister, don't talk about me. Mom and Dad said that they want us to find a boyfriend within 100 years. Now that I have a target, you have to hurry up as well. Dong Guangli rolled her eyes and said, you are just as long-winded as Mom and Dad. Now that this mission is here, how can big sister have the mood to talk about the relationship between a man and a woman? Big sister, this kind of marriage is very mystical. You stay in the palace every day, and the people that you see are always us, how can there be any accidents? Just now, didn't you say that you were going to spy on us? Big sister, you should take this opportunity to go out and have a walk. Dong Guangli looked at Yi Lu with a strange expression, as expected of my good little sister. Ah. I was just joking, after all, you have to stay at the headquarters. Dong Guangli looked at her little sister and Yi Lu couldn't help but take a few steps back. Big sister, what are you trying to do? Help big sister out. Whether or not you will have a brother-in-law in the future will depend on this. If you don't help me out, I will make my brother-in-law disappear. Big sister, good little sister, help big sister out this time. Big sister is going to be bored to death in the palace. Dong Guangli held onto Yi Lu's small hand and pouted her small mouth while acting cute. Yi Lu sneered, all right, big sister, I really can't stand you acting like this, what should I do? You just have to pretend to be me, at most, it will only be for 1 month, it won't be too long. Really, 1 month? Of course, why would I lie to you, little sister? Look at big sister, do I look like someone who would lie? Yi Lu expressed her doubt. In our Yi family, lying is one of our basic skills. Look at how my dad is able to bluff my mom to the point that she is completely confused and disoriented. Smart, this is really smart. And, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.